Chapter 1441. He did not see wrong. Each of the 10 steps was covered in scarlet blood. It was very eye-catching, even somewhat too bright. A human's blood could not be so glaring. The strange scene frightened the black-clad swordsman so much that he paled. He quickly looked at Jiang Tian and pleaded with a quivering voice, "Senior Jiang, save me. Don't move." Although Jiang Tian had a strange temper and a proud and aloof character, he would not leave a person in the lurch. This matter surpassed Jiang Tian's expectations. There should not be any major problems with just 10 steps. Even if there was a problem, it should not be this serious. Bloody footprints were an extremely ominous sign. Originally, Jiang Tian wanted to make this black-clad swordsman suffer a little before dealing with him. However, it looked like the problem was bigger now. This was not Jiang Tian's first time coming to this Mirage Immortal Palace. He had come here at least 10 times. As long as he did not enter the Mirage Immortal Palace, given his means, he would not be in any danger. However, it looked like something had changed. Someone had changed the geomancy of this place. There was definitely something wrong with this abnormal situation. Nothing had happened even after coming here so many times. Aside from this, there could be no other reason. "Don't move. I'll go over." As Jiang Tian spoke, many azure-colored geomancy flags flew out of his body. They turned into beams of azure light. In the blink of an eye, they stabbed into the ground according to some kind of formation. Ah! Wherever the flag landed, blood splattered on the ground. Miserable screams rang out, causing those who heard it to panic. That black-clad swordsman was even more frightened. However, he did not dare to rush Jiang Tian. At this moment, the entire ground started to tremble gently. As the ground trembled, it continuously elongated. Such a strange scene made everyone even more afraid to act rashly. They all showed anxious expressions. Only Jiang Tian remained calm as he walked forward step by step, leaving bloody footprints on the ground. On the throne, Shao Chen's expression did not change. A dragon fixing needle appeared in his right hand. This was a dragon seeking secret treasure that he had once used to seek dragons and fix veins. Although Shao Chen had given up on cultivating as a geomaster, he still had the dragon revealing mirror, the dragon subduing platform, and the dragon fixing needle. Light flickered under Jiang Tian's feet. With every step he took, the blood scattered and turned into beams of scarlet light surrounding his body. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, a series of terrifying cries came from outside the formation. A pair of green eyes flickered, accompanied by heavy breathing. "What is it?" Feng Shao asked, feeling a little nervous. As a martial emperor, Shao Chen possessed overwhelming strength. However, he did not know anything about these ghost-like ominous things. The middle-aged couple also held their weapons with their right hands, ready to attack at any time. Under the mask, Shao Chen frowned slightly. This was not a good sign. Jiang Tian was busy dispelling the evil blood and had no time to take care of the formation. The group of them would probably be thrown into disarray, and they might even kill each other. The unknown was always the greatest source of fear. After hesitating for a while, Shao Chen decided to make a move. He flicked his finger, and the dragon fixing needle turned into a beam of light as it shot out. The mysterious existence outside the formation let out a miserable shriek and rolled on the ground. At that moment, Jiang Tian had also completed his 10 steps. All of the blood had been dispersed, and the ground had stopped squirming. Everything had returned to normal. "All right, it's safe for now." Jiang Tian pointed to that black-clad swordsman, indicating that he could walk back. That black-clad swordsman felt like he was relieved of a heavy burden. After standing there for so long without moving, his body had already stiffened long ago. The black-clad swordsman raised his leg and took a step. Boom! His body shattered into pieces, not even a drop of blood leaking out. It turned out that he had already turned into a dried corpse without realizing it. Shao Chen now somewhat understood why the blood from earlier was overly bright. That was the essence blood of an emperor, the black-clad swordsman's own blood. Such a sudden scene startled everyone, their jaws nearly falling off. A seventh heaven sovereign martial emperor actually dismembered into pieces, dying instantly. Bastard! It turns out that he died the moment he took the first wrong step. What a waste of my time. Jiang Tian scolded angrily after taking a look. Senior Jiang, what's going on? The hemp-robed old man asked Jiang Tian, suppressing the horror in his heart. Jiang Tian did not hide it. He said honestly, someone changed the geomancy of this place. If I guessed right, it should be that group of immortal cultivators. Aside from them, no one else would dare to do this. The 19 psychic mountains around us have all turned into ghost mountains. Yin and Yang are in chaos, the 5 elements are reversed. One wrong step and you end up like this fellow. Feng Shao sucked in a sharp breath and said, "That incredible. He is the 7th heaven Emperor Wu. How could he die just like that?" Jiang Tian smiled in disdain and said, "You are overthinking. Do you know how the ghost mountains were refined? They were built from the corpses and blood of martial emperors. During the ancient era, etiquette did not exist. The principles were unclear. There was no distinction between good and evil. Humans were no different from wild beasts. They did things crudely and viciously. When Emperor Wu died, he was no different from a wild beast, casually piled up like that. Only during the immemorial era did etiquette appear and people learned to rest in peace. In the following years, there were no more ghost mountains. All the ghost mountains in the world existed here." When Feng Shao heard this secret, he felt slightly startled, somewhat unable to accept it. What are those immortal cultivators trying to do? Trap us here? The hemp-robed old man thought even further, thinking about the Mirage Immortal Palace. Jiang Tian said indifferently, "There's no need to think about it. There is definitely something in the Mirage Immortal Palace that they want. They cannot afford any mishaps. Otherwise, those fellows would not be so ruthless. What should we do now? I discovered a universe origin fruit in the Mirage Immortal Palace 100 years ago. It just so happens to ripen now. Could it be that we are just going to give it up?" The hemp-robed old man felt depressed. In a moment of carelessness, he revealed the secret in his heart. TSK. The universe origin fruit is good stuff. It is rumored to be an immortal fruit that can increase one's cultivation by 1,000 years. Old Mu, you really hit it well. Are you trying to use it to become a prime? Jiang Tian said with a smile, not anxious about the situation at all. The middle-aged couple, Feng Shao, and Shao Qin could not help looking at the hemp-robed old man. There really is such a thing. That is a legendary item. Even during the immortal epoch, it was an extremely rare natural treasure. The hemp-robed old man could not care too much. He said sullenly, "Senior Jiang, I don't care. You have to send me to the Mirage Immortal Palace." Such a scene happened on many mountains. The supreme elders of the various holy lands all forced their geomasters to think of a way to get down the mountain. It was not just Mu Yong. Everyone who came to the Mirage Immortal Palace had a purpose. They did not want to miss out on this rare opportunity. The next time the Mirage Immortal Palace appeared, they would miss out on the Golden Age. Jiang Tian said indifferently, "That's impossible. The geomancy is already chaotic, and the Ghost Mountain is already formed. I can come and go as I please. However, if I want to bring someone along, there is no need to talk about that. Just obediently wait for 1 month, and you will be sent out." Seated on the throne, Shao Qin looked up at the sky. The sky was dark, the sun, moon, and stars could not be seen. However, when Shao Qin infused his spiritual sense into his eyes, he still managed to see the constellations in the sky. Shao Qin gently tapped his fingers on the armrest. The hemp-robed old man felt very frustrated. However, he was much more shrewd than the black-clad swordsman. He knew that he could not be rash or force Jiang Tian. The hemp-robed old man felt very sullen in his heart, not knowing what to do. Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and sized up Jiang Tian. This old fellow's means were very powerful. It was impossible that he only had these few methods. He must have been holding something back. However, he did not want to get involved in this mess, so he purposely did not advance. Xiao Chen observed the constellations. There were geomasters executing their geomancy skills on the other ghost mountains, clashing with the mysterious phenomena of the ghost mountain as they headed down the mountain step by step. Since the other geomasters had means to break out of this situation, it was even more impossible for Jiang Tian to not have one. Furthermore, from start to end, aside from some simple geomancy flags, Xiao Chen did not see Jiang Tian use any powerful dragon-seeking secret treasures. He also did not see Jiang Tian use his treasure, the worldly universe banner. While Xiao Chen felt suspicious, he suddenly discovered Jiang Tian looking at him with a smile that did not seem like a smile. Chapter 1442. Could it be that old Jiang has recognized me? Xiao Chen smiled faintly. What exactly is he planning? Xiao Chen shifted his gaze away and thought to himself. The few people in the group all appeared somewhat depressed. No one would be satisfied with being trapped here for a month. This was especially so for the hemp-robed old man. If someone accidentally obtained a miraculous item like the primordial chaos fruit, he would definitely die. If someone accidentally obtained a miraculous item like the universe origin fruit, he would be so frustrated that he would vomit blood, so depressed that he wanted to die. The middle-aged couple spoke in low voices, thinking about something. Senior Jiang, since you are not willing to bring anyone along, then I will go alone. This is not my first time coming to the Mirage Immortal Palace, so I am somewhat prepared. The hemp-robed old man could not resist stepping forward. Jiang Tian could not be bothered with him. He waved his hand and said, "Do as you please. Our agreement ends here. Life and death are up to fate. Success or failure is up to heaven. I have my own plans," Mu Yong said calmly. Then, he walked out of the range of the formation, choosing to go alone. He did indeed have some trump cards and means. After all, he was someone who had come to the Mirage Immortal Palace several times and left it alive. The two of us discussed it and decided to go down the mountain alone. However, we would like to ask Senior Jiang some questions. The middle-aged couple stepped forward and arrived before Jiang Tian. Clearly, they wanted some guidance. Jiang Tian did not refuse. He said indifferently, "Yin and Yang are reversed here, and the 5 elements are in chaos. However, midnight should be the calmest time. Walk for 2 hours every day. There is no rush. We should be able to leave the mountain in 7 days. However, this is not absolute. Deal with the risks yourself." After saying that, Jiang Tian gave the two a protective jade pendant each and did not say anything more. "Thank you, Senior." The two gave their thanks and set off at midnight. Soon, most of the people had left. Only Xiao Chen and Feng Xiao remained. These two bladesmen had not made a decision yet. Clearly, Feng Xiao could not make up his mind. He did not know what to do. He asked Xiao Chen, "Brother Shadowless, what do you think?" Naturally, Xiao Chen wanted to go as well. However, with his geomaster cultivation, he could barely protect himself. Bringing someone along would only be a burden. The importance of the reincarnation arts to him was self-evident. Xiao Chen answered honestly, "With my strength, I can barely protect myself. However, if I travel with others, I cannot guarantee that." Feng Xiao smiled and said, "In that case, let's meet at the Mirage Immortal Palace. Hopefully, we can make it there alive." Xiao Chen looked pensive. He took out a brocade box and handed it to the other party. There were some dragon-fixing needles inside. Perhaps they would be of use at a crucial moment. "What is this?" Feng Xiao asked curiously. Xiao Chen said calmly, "These are some small toys that I refined myself. They are useful in dealing with ghost-type evil beings." Feng Xiao didn't really care, but she was still very touched. After casually putting it away, she said, "Farewell. Take care." After Feng Shao left, only Xiao Chen and Jiang Tian remained. Jiang Tian smiled casually and said, "Everyone is gone. Brat, you can take off your mask now." Without removing his mask, Xiao Chen asked doubtfully, "When did you recognize me?" "The first time I saw you, I was somewhat suspicious. You can't hide the unique aura of a geomaster. By the time you used the dragon fixing needles, I was already pretty sure. However, you really hid very deeply." Jiang Tian continued, "Everyone in the world has forgotten about you. Who would have thought that the Blue Dragon King from back then would transform into the current shadowless saber sovereign?" These words rendered Xiao Chen speechless. He could only silently accept the other party's guess. "Cut the crap. What level have you cultivated your heavenly eye to? Are you still cultivating the Paradise Secret Canon?" Jiang Tian asked with a serious expression. "Why are you asking this? I have not cultivated it for a very long time already. In the past few years, I've been focusing on the Saber Dao," Xiao Chen said with some doubt in his tone, not hiding anything. Jiang Tian scolded, "Foolish brat, to think that you gave up on the heavenly eye. How many people would beg for such a heaven-defying technique? I can't be bothered with you anymore. Originally, I thought that you could help me a little. Now, it looks like you are just a burden." Xiao Chen felt embarrassed in his heart. Jiang Tian looked down on him. Based on what the other party said, Jiang Tian had purposely let the hemp-robed old man and the others leave. The dragon revealing mirror and the dragon subduing platform, the two great dragons seeking secret treasures, are they still there? Yes. They are still of some use. Make your preparations. Come with me to see what those immortal cultivators are up to. Jiang Tian finally revealed his purpose. It turned out that he wanted to seek trouble for those immortal cultivators. This went against Xiao Chen's plan. He was here to search for the cycle arts. As long as those immortal cultivators did not have any designs on the cycle arts, it would have nothing to do with him. "Help me with this, and I'll help you obtain the cycle arts. I know where it is." "Deal," Xiao Chen said directly without hesitation. Jiang Tian smiled and said, "You are very decisive. However, you have no choice but to agree. If you refuse again, I will go and help the people at Zodiac Hall." After making his preparations, Xiao Chen merged the throne into his black robes. The dragon revealing mirror floated quietly above his head as he stood next to Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian held the worldly universe banner and pointed at it. The turbid sky slowly parted. The sun, moon, and stars flickered with light, taking in everything. Stargazing. Xiao Chen knew this as well. However, he was still not as good as Jiang Tian. He could not understand many of the constellations. "What are you doing? Isn't the feng shui of this place messed up? The constellations change constantly. There is no way to see anything wrong with them," Xiao Chen said, feeling confused. "Let's see which mountain those immortal cultivators are at." "Found it." Jiang Tian's eyes narrowed and fixed on a ghost mountain in the northwest. It was nearly an entire valley away from the ghost mountain that the two of them were standing on. "Use your heavenly eye to see if it is right." Xiao Chen took off his mask and opened the vertical eye on his forehead. His field of vision immediately extended infinitely. The scene in the distance was magnified countless times, appearing before Xiao Chen. He could see everything clearly, not missing any detail. When his field of vision was about to reach its limit, Xiao Chen finally saw an immortal ship. The heavenly eye could not be maintained for too long. After verifying it, Xiao Chen prepared to leave. However, just at this moment, a face suddenly appeared in the scene before Xiao Chen. The owner of this face was the white-clad fairy maiden that appeared on the mountain before Xiao Chen entered this place. At this moment, the heavenly eye had yet to scatter. It was like this person's face was right in front of Xiao Chen. There was no need to elaborate on this woman's beauty. She was perfect and flawless, exuding overwhelming spiritual energy and extraordinary. However, as Xiao Chen looked at her, he felt fear for some reason. He was so frightened that he took 3 steps back. He made a mistake at the last step, and blood leaked out of a corner of his lips. What did you see? Jiang Tian asked anxiously, feeling somewhat excited when he saw Xiao Chen vomit blood. Xiao Chen rested for a while before answering, an immortal ship and a white-clad girl. I wonder if it was an illusion. Jiang Tian, who thought that he could see a lot, said disappointedly, the level of your heavenly eye is still too low. If you improve it further and cultivate it to the level of the heavenly flying divine eye, you will be able to see more. The heavenly flying divine eye was just a level. When one cultivated it to perfection, the heavenly eye could soar into the sky and tunnel underground, no longer restricted to the physical body. However, this level was something that Xiao Chen had never even thought about. It was far too difficult. That woman, Xiao Chen said, feeling suspicious. Didn't they say that she would not appear? Jiang Tian sighed and said, I roughly know what they are going to do. This woman is the heavenly profound holy daughter, the strongest person of the ancient era. She is extremely infatuated with immortals. After she reached her peak, she moved the 19 ghost mountains and locked down the spiritual energy of the Mirage Immortal Palace, preparing to become a ghost immortal. Xiao Chen muttered, Ghost immortal. If one cannot become a heavenly immortal, it is not impossible to become an immortal using the ghost Tao. In that case, did she succeed? That was millions of years ago. Who knows the result? This group of immortal cultivators might be trying to find her true body and dig out the method to become a ghost immortal. Jiang Tian said worriedly, if they really dig out something ominous and fly out of the Mirage Immortal Palace, the world will fall into chaos. Come with me to take a look. The worldly universe banner spun around and doubled in size. Jiang Tian immediately stood on it. After some thought, Xiao Chen followed suit. Xiao Chen really wanted to know whether the white-clad girl he saw was a human or a ghost or the ghost immortal that Jiang Tian mentioned. Chapter 1443. In this strange space, only a geomaster like Senior Jiang dared to fly in the air. If it were Xiao Chen, he absolutely would not dare to do so. The restrictions and formations in the air were much more numerous than those on the ground. If Xiao Chen was not careful, he might end up in an illusion, unable to come out until he died. The yin-yang five-element illusion was very different from regular illusions. There was truth in the fake, and falsehood in the real. It was a restriction formed by combining the geomancy of the surroundings, the five elements, yin-yang, and five elements with illusions. Even Jiang Tian had to be cautious when flying. Although Xiao Chen was clearly flying in the air, all he saw were all sorts of incredibly dangerous environments, changing constantly. At one moment, it was an ice mountain. At another, it was lava. At another, it was hell. Not only that, but there were also many ferocious beasts in the illusions. As a geomaster, Jiang Tian naturally had to leave these combat tasks to Xiao Chen. Don't think that these illusions and ferocious beasts are fake. After you get injured, you will still get injured in reality, Jiang Tian said somewhat leisurely as he led the way. Xiao Chen could not be bothered with Jiang Tian. This old fellow is here to use me as a laborer. His schemes are really cunning. After a long time, after killing countless evil spirits and charging out of the hell illusion, the scene before Xiao Chen changed. The scene before Xiao Chen changed. The ghost mountain where the immortal ship was already right before his eyes. Unexpectedly, the mountain was deserted, there was not a single person. Aside from that immortal ship, there were no other immortal cultivators. It was frighteningly quiet. Where did those fellows go? Let's look around, Jiang Tian muttered. Jiang Tian muttered and put away the worldly universe banners. Then, he led Xiao Chen to the ghost mountain. After giving instructions, Xiao Chen and Jiang Tian started to search the mountain top, trying to see if they could find any clues. After a while, the two returned in disappointment, not finding anything. That should not be the case. Since they destroyed the geomancy of the entire ghost mountain, they should have left some traces behind, Jiang Tian muttered to himself. Jiang Tian murmured to himself. He could not figure it out. Xiao Chen also felt suspicious. In his opinion, some formation flags and formation discs should have been left behind after they were used. The moment he raised his head, Xiao Chen's gaze fell on the celestial ship, and a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. Elder Jiang, do you think the secret treasure they used to destroy Feng Shui is this immortal ship? Jiang Tian shuddered and looked at the immortal ship. Very likely. Why didn't I think of that? No one has ever said that a secret treasure for seeking dragons and fixing veins cannot be made into a ship. The more they looked, the more they felt that the shape of this immortal ship was rather strange, and the more likely it was. The 7 divine weapons behind Xiao Chen drew their scabbards and buzzed. Saber intent accumulated continuously, kicking up strong winds. What are you going to do? Jiang Tian asked nervously. We'll know once we try. With a thought from Xiao Chen, the 7 divine weapons carried a boundless saber intent. Jiang Tian did not have time to stop them, and the 7 divine weapons crashed into the immortal ship. With a loud bang, the immortal ship was completely destroyed, sending dust and debris flying everywhere. The shockwaves swept over, and the two of them quickly retreated. Xiao Chen stood in front of them, sharing most of the impact. Why were you so rash? If the trail ended, it would be problematic to search again, Jiang Tian said somewhat reproachfully. Xiao Chen said after some thought, actually, the trail ended long ago. Since that group of immortal cultivators already left, they definitely would not have left behind too many clues. As Jiang Tian spoke, he stared at Xiao Chen in front, and his expression slowly changed. After the dust settled, the original immortal ship was no longer there, revealing a scarlet skeleton. The immortal chi was nowhere to be found, replaced by a sinister aura. With one look, it was clear that the skeleton was human. Furthermore, it had been refined using an especially evil method. This was clearly a ghost ship, not an immortal ship. Indeed, this group of people came prepared. No wonder they could disrupt the Feng Shui of the 19 Ghost Mountains. This ghost ship has a significant origin. This group of people from the Penglai Sea must have prepared for at least 1,000 years. Jiang Tian looked at the ghost ship in a daze, finding it hard to believe. However, Xiao Chen shook his head. He felt that ghost immortals were not of the righteous Tao and would not have a good ending. No matter how well prepared they were, it would all be for naught in the end. What should we do now? Jiang Tian said with a sullen expression, let's break this trap of theirs first and restore the Ghost Mountain's Feng Shui. You truly live up to being the strongest geomaster of the heavenly starry ocean. The immortal Venerate was right when he said that you would definitely discover this trap. Just at this moment, a voice came from the sky. A middle-aged man with the air of an immortal and wearing purple Daoist robes descended slowly on an auspicious cloud. This startled Xiao Chen. To think that this person had been hiding here for so long without being discovered. The show is just beginning. How can we let the two of you spoil it? Get down. The purple-clad immortal cultivator landed on the ghost ship. The immortal chi was gone, and his aura changed drastically. It seemed like he merged with the ghost mountain under him. He stretched out his hand. Boom! The ground under Xiao Chen's and Jiang Tian's feet turned into a mouth. Caught off guard, the two lost their footing and fell down. When the purple-clad immortal cultivator on the ghost ship saw the two disappear, he nodded in satisfaction. He gently pushed off with his feet and soared into the air, preparing to hide again. Bang! However, before the purple-clad immortal cultivator could smile, rocks flew up from the summit of the mountain. A gargantuan hand appeared and grabbed the purple-clad immortal cultivator, pulling him down from the air. Amid rumbling sounds, Xiao Chen flew out in a somewhat sorry state. Xiao Chen sat on the throne with one hand tightly clasped around the purple-clad immortal cultivator's neck, showing no expression on his face. If Xiao Chen had not executed Dermic World earlier, he did not know if he could have come out of the Ghost Mountain. The space inside the mountain was simply too strange and horrifying. The ground was covered in human heads. Furthermore, these heads had been there for who knew how long. Xiao Chen did not know what would happen if they fell. That's impossible. How could you come out of the ghost mountain? The purple-clad immortal cultivator exclaimed in shock, appearing incredulous. Xiao Qin said indifferently, there are too many impossible things in this world. Speak. What are you people trying to do? Ha! You want to threaten me? That's impossible. The golden light in the purple-clad immortal cultivator's body swelled continuously. This startled Xiao Qin. This fellow actually chose to go down together, using his yuanying to self-destruct. Without hesitation, pride unsheathed from behind the throne and ended the purple-clad immortal cultivator's life force prematurely. As Xiao Qin looked at the headless corpse in his hand, he casually tossed it aside. Then, his gaze landed on the ghost ship. Little 3, have you heard of ghost immortals? Xiao Qin asked the item spirit of the 3-life mirror. This is a very evil thing. I do not know much about it. During the immortal epoch, it was a taboo existence. Furthermore, it was a dead end, it was impossible to succeed. Even if one walked the cycle of reincarnation, no one would be willing to become a ghost immortal. Little 3 continued, this is because ghost immortals are neither immortal nor ghost. They are neither alive nor dead. They wander between yin and yang. Although they live forever, they live a life worse than death. Can you think of a way to destroy this ghost ship? Xiao Qin asked as he pointed to the skeletal ghost ship in front. He felt uncomfortable looking at it. He did not know what this ghost ship was made of. To think that the combined attack of the 7 divine weapons had not destroyed it. Ha! That is easy to deal with. I can move this inanimate object to the 3-life mirror's ruins. Although Little 3 spoke casually, when she controlled the 3-life mirror to execute the universe movement, her teeth chattered and her expression turned grave. His teeth were chattering and his expression was solemn. His brows were tightly furrowed, and it was clear that it was extremely taxing. Xiao Qin could not help feeling regret. Had he known that Little 3 liked to show off, he would not have made this request. A tear appeared in space, and Little 3 shouted. The 3-life mirror gave off a resplendent light, looking like it would burn. The entire ghost ship vanished with a whoosh, sucked into the 3-life mirror. The moment the ghost ship vanished, Xiao Qin immediately felt the surroundings change. The countless stars in the starry heavens above shifted positions and returned to their original positions. It looks like I succeeded. Xiao Qin smiled and nodded in satisfaction. Xiao Qin had already done his best to help with the matter that old Jiang instructed him to do. Now, he wanted to go to the ethereal immortal palace to search for the cycle arts. After that, he could leave. As for whether Jiang Tian, who fell into the ghost mountain, was dead or alive, Xiao Qin could not be bothered with that. Xiao Qian's instincts told him that given Jiang Tian's means, this ghost mountain would not be able to trap him to death. Chapter 1444. The instant the geomancy returned to normal, all the adventuring loose cultivators and Holy Land elders on the surrounding ghost mountains immediately sensed it. Everyone here was an expert. Even if they did not understand geomancy, they could sense the subtle changes in their surroundings. Furthermore, every team had a geomaster. That went without saying. In Zodiac Hall's group, the Sun Palace's Princess Chu Tian frowned slightly, feeling confused. What's going on? The geomancy of this ghost mountain suddenly returned to normal. The geomaster in the group was a white-clad old man, the personal geomaster of Zodiac Hall. His means were no weaker than Jiang Tian's. The white-clad old man thought for a while before saying, "It is extremely difficult to change the geomancy of the ghost mountain. The other party probably cannot maintain it for long. Or perhaps, the other party only needs to maintain it for that long. That will be enough." When Chu Tian heard that, she nodded and said, "That's right. Just a small advantage is enough to leave us far behind. Since the geomancy has returned to normal, let's not hold back anymore and rush to the ethereal immortal palace at full speed." Whoosh! 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 Under the lead of Chu Tian and the white-clad old man, Zodiac Hall's group moved like lightning, rushing to the ethereal immortal palace at full speed. Such a scene happened on the various ghost mountains. These people, who already knew that they were too slow, no longer held back. At the entrance to the ethereal immortal palace in the middle of the valley, the two immortal venerates' expressions sank at the same time. Immortal venerate Mingyu said, "Fellow Taoist, Purple Cloud is already dead. I can no longer sense his aura. Who is that strong? Purple Cloud is compatible with the Ghost Mountain. He should be able to protect himself when facing the Ninth Heaven's Emperor Wu." Some of the immortal cultivators behind Mingyu expressed their confusion. Immortal venerate Tianyi said, "Never mind. We should have expected this trip to be full of twists and turns. No matter how prepared we are, something unexpected will happen. Let's continue forward." Immortal venerate Mingyu said, "I'll leave behind a restriction. That way, we can buy some time and create more opportunities." Right. That would be for the best. If others were here, they would definitely be shocked. The restriction that Immortal venerate Mingyu casually mentioned was actually the major magic skill, Icy Blood Moon. Not caring about anything else, after the geomancy returned, Xiaoqun relied on his passable dragon seeking meridian fixing art. With the help of the dragon revealing mirror and the dragon fixing needle, Xiaoqun did not have to worry about anything, and his progress was exceptionally smooth. The only thing on his mind was the cycle art. Xiaoqun did not pay attention to the spiritual herbs and profound beasts along the way. His speed was unusually fast. After a while, the ancient fairy palace appeared in his field of vision. Under the corrosion of time, the majestic immortal palace no longer looked like an immortal from the outside. The old red walls, dusty eaves, and cracks visible to the naked eye gave off a feeling of dilapidation and vicissitudes. The spiritual energy was far from being as overwhelming as it seemed from the outside. After breaking through the thick fog, one could see that it was even more realistic. Xiaoqun felt something in his heart. Even the most glorious legend seemed so fragile in the face of ruthless time. Seeing this immortal path relic, Xiaoqun thought of the lightning immortal ancestor in the misty lake. The lightning immortal ancestor who had loudly declared that he had subdued him before he died. The doors of the immortal palace were wide open, but there was a man-made restriction blocking the way. The entrance to the hall was blocked by a bright crimson moon. A cold light flickered around the bright moon, causing one's heart to palpitate for no reason. Shaw! Shaw! Footsteps rang out. Xiaoqun turned his head back and discovered that it was the group of people from the Zodiac Hall rushing over. There was a total of 5 people from the Zodiac Hall. Aside from the Sun Palace's palace master, Chu Tian, and that white-clad geomaster, the other 3 were peak 8th heaven martial emperors. It looked like the cyclic astral lord had put in all his effort for the sake of the cycle art. Shadowless Saber Sovereign. Chu Tian narrowed his eyes slightly, feeling somewhat surprised. To think that there was someone who arrived before him. Chu Tian had heard of the Shadowless Saber Sovereign before. He did not dare to be too careless when facing this person. Xiaoqun turned his head back and asked indifferently, "Palace Master Chu, what can I do for you?" "Ha! It's nothing. I just did not expect that there would be someone faster than me." "Brother Shadowless, did you discover anything by arriving early?" Chu Tian recovered his composure and revealed a smile on his face. It was best not to offend this person if possible, lest more problems crop up. "I did not discover anything. Someone left a restriction at the entrance. Based on the method, it should be the work of one of the Penglai Sea's immortal venerates." The moment Chu Tian said that, the expressions of the people from the Zodiac Hall changed slightly. An old man took a step forward and arrived before the restriction at the entrance. After examining it for a while, he said, after checking it, he returned and said, "Senior Chu, it is indeed the work of Immortal Venerate Mingyu, the major magic skill, Icy Blood Moon." Chu Tian frowned and said, "What is this old fellow trying to do?" "We just want to obtain the cycle art. It is not like we have any conflict with him. Why does he keep blocking us?" Xiaoqun said coldly, "Palace Master Chu, you are really naive. It is already clear that what he wants has a great conflict with us. Otherwise, why would so many things happen for no reason?" Chu Tian showed some anger on his face. However, after thinking about it, he realized that the Shadowless Saber Sovereign's words made sense. Dong! 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 Footsteps rang out, and another group of people rushed over. The one leading them was the 5 Poison Sect's Vice Sect Master, Yang Tong. Soon, the people of the Yin Yang Paradise and the Heavenly Province Academy, the 2 Holy Lands, arrived as well. After a while, more and more people gathered here. When they saw the Blood Moon Frost restriction, they all frowned slightly, not daring to step forward. This Blood Moon Frost restriction is Immortal Venerate Ming Yu's strongest magic skill. Even the minor Heavenly Venerate Emperor Wu could not escape death from the attack of the Blood Moon. Even if he barely survives, he will be a cripple in the future. I wonder, who would go and break the restrictions? Aside from a few Ninth Heaven Martial Emperors, who would go and break the restrictions? If other Martial Emperors want to break the restrictions, they would have to think carefully. All sorts of discussions rang out, and the various horrors of the Blood Moon Frost restriction spread out. Xiaochen thought to himself, feeling that this move of the Penglai Sea's people was really beautiful. The restriction was nothing. However, whoever broke it first would be at a disadvantage. The people behind would benefit for nothing. If they entered the ethereal immortal palace to search for treasures, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Wait, why do I not see that group of scarlet-clad people? Aside from the Penglai Sea's people, the ones that Xiaochen cared about the most were the blood-clad sect's people. However, when he looked around, he did not see a single blood-clad sect member. Could it be that they already entered? No, I can't wait anymore. If the other party's goal is really related to the cycle arts, I cannot accept such a loss. Look, the Shadowless Saber Sovereign is going up. What is he doing? The Sun Palace's Palace Master, Chu Tian, and the 5 Poison Sect's Vice Sect Master do not dare to act rashly. Could he be trying to break that restriction? He is really bold. However, even if he breaks it, he will still suffer a great loss. When Xiaochen arrived at the palace doors, he attracted everyone's attention. Several people revealed joy in their hearts. If the restriction was broken, they would be able to enter the ethereal immortal palace after him. The Shadowless Saber Sovereign would definitely be injured, which was equivalent to having one less competitor, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. As Xiaochen stood before the icy blood moon, cold qi assaulted his face. The bright scarlet moon was like a planet made of ice. After sizing it up, Xiaochen could not help but view this magic skill in a different light. While it looked simple, there were many tricks to it. The light screen contained an icy small world. Once forcefully broken, the entire small world would explode. Then, the blood moon, which was no longer bound, would grow infinitely larger. Bang! There would be an intense explosion. At such a close distance, just thinking about that might made one tremble in fear. Simply put, the blood moon was like a huge bomb, and the restriction was the fuse. The moment one touched it, it would ignite. Forcefully breaking it was definitely the stupidest method. One would die a miserable death. However, if one did not break the restriction, how should one get over? Many thoughts flashed in Xiaochen's mind. After a while, Xiaochen thought of a way to break it. The heavenly snow divine flame appeared in his palm. Before everyone's eyes, Xiaochen entered the light screen with a pu sound. Whoosh! 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 Move back! Move back! When the people of the various holy lands and the loose cultivators saw this scene, they quickly retreated, afraid that the following explosion would affect them. Chapter 1445. However, the expected intense explosion did not happen. The Shadowless Saber Sovereign acted like nothing had happened, directly walking into the icy blood moon. 10 seconds passed, and everything was calm. There were no restrictions on the icy blood moon at all. The Sun Palace's Chu Tian's face immediately sank. To think that he let the Shadowless Saber Sovereign take the initiative. The most important thing was that the restrictions were still there, not broken. What's going on? Could this restriction be fake? The many emperor Wu present all had such doubts. When they saw the light screen formed by the icy blood moon, they could not understand. Finally, one person could no longer hold back and wanted to see whether the restriction was real or fake. That person's figure flashed and arrived before the palace doors. As he looked at the light screen formed by the icy blood moon, he hesitated. Clenching his teeth, he finally made up his mind and stretched his hand into the light screen. Whoosh! In the next second, that person's arm turned into ice. He could not feel anything, and the scarlet cold chi continued to spread. Whoosh! This person decisively chopped off his arm. Then, he retreated with a pale complexion. It's real. The icy blood moon's restriction. Such a scene happened before everyone's eyes, stifling all the people who had hoped to get lucky. Now came the question. How did the shadowless saber sovereign enter? Why was he not attacked by the restrictions at all? Of course, it was impossible for Xiao Qin not to have been attacked. Inside the ice small world in the light screen, Xiao Qin merged his primordial energy and saber intent, forming a cone-shaped force field in front of him. He formed a cone-shaped force field in front of him, and as he flew, he forcefully broke through all kinds of restrictions. At the same time, the heavenly snow divine flame in his right hand continuously gave off horrifying cold chi. The shadowless saber sovereign quickly mended the restrictions he broke. He looked like a fish swimming in water. Instead of being attacked, he seemed to be enjoying it, swimming quickly. However, in reality, he was doing three things at once. He had to break the restrictions, circulate the solar true flame to protect himself, and expel the cold chi. Furthermore, he had to use the strong ice-attributed energy of the heavenly snow divine flame to repair the restrictions he broke. If he made any mistakes, the cold would attack him. The heavenly snow divine flame would rebound and detonate the icy blood moon. At that time, even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. He could forget about the reincarnation technique. After carefully passing through the most dangerous blood-colored moon, Xiao Qin felt the ground under his feet disappear. Then, he landed on the ground. Swoosh! Xiao Qin put away the heavenly snow divine flame and shattered the frost on his body. Then, he sized up his surroundings. He should have entered the Mirage Immortal Palace. Xiao Qin turned his head back to take a look. The seal was still intact, so he continued walking forward. After working so hard to pass through the icy blood moon's restriction, Xiao Qin naturally would not let those people who wished for him to die. At this moment, the restrictions left behind by immortal venerate Mingyu had become his assistants. They should be able to block those people behind him. Inside the immortal palace, there was a large hall. On both sides of the hall, there were 18 giant white jade pillars. Due to the passage of time, many cracks had appeared on the white jade pillar. The color was no longer pure white either, unknown just how much dust had covered it. Only the murals were still intact, their grandeur just as before, outlining the prosperity of the last great era. After walking through the corridor, there was a long flight of steps with many hurried footprints on them. Xiao Qin lowered his head and looked for a long time. He discovered that these footprints were left by two groups of people. There was a clear difference in the footprints. Above the steps was another long flight of steps. When Xiao Qin reached this place, there were passageways on both sides that led to places unknown. When Xiao Qin looked to the front, he saw a damaged throne at the end of the hall. The jade-like gemstones and divine metal that had been placed on the throne were long gone. If not for this damaged throne not having any value, someone would probably have taken it away already. Xiao Qin entered deep thought. Then, he leaped into the air and arrived before the throne. He gently swept his sleeves and blew away the dust on the throne. After hesitating for a moment, he sat on it. During the immemorial era, the heavenly profound holy lady should have been the one to sit on this throne. As for the immortal epoch, Xiao Qin did not know who did it. Regardless of the past, at least now, it was Xiao Qin who sat on it. When Xiao Qin looked to the front, he discovered that the position of the throne was very ingenious. Sitting there, Xiao Qin could see every corner of the hall clearly. Sir, you have been following me for so long. You can show yourself now, right? Xiao Chen, who was seated on the throne, suddenly spoke to the empty hall. Who was he speaking to? Air or an invisible ghost? Whoosh! Suddenly, a white-clad woman holding a sword appeared in front of Xiao Chen in front of the hall. This was the white-clad fairy maiden that Xiao Chen saw at the summit before entering the ethereal immortal palace. Without a doubt, this white-clad woman was the heavenly profound holy lady. How did you know that I have been following you? The heavenly profound holy lady asked softly. Her voice was surprisingly pleasant to the ears. It was like wind chimes ringing in the night wind at midnight, crisp and quiet, giving off a cold feeling. Seated on the throne, Xiao Chen replied indifferently, I don't know. I only know that you purposely showed yourself and let me see you because you have something to say to me. Before coming here, he had heard from the old man that no matter who it was, they would not be able to see this lady after entering the Ghost Mountain. There were even people who were infatuated with this woman's fairy-like appearance and temperament. They searched more than half of the immortal palace but couldn't find even a corner of this woman's clothes. However, after Xiao Chen entered the Ghost Mountain, he saw it clearly. Jiang Tian, who was with him, did not see it. He was the only one who saw it. At first, Xiao Chen was startled. He didn't think too much about it, but the more he thought about it, the stranger he felt. For tens of thousands of years, so many people had come and gone, but no one had seen this woman in the Ghost Mountain. Obviously, if this woman didn't want to be seen, no one would be able to find her. On the other hand, if anyone saw her, it would not be a coincidence. She had done it on purpose. You're quite smart. It seems like I didn't choose the wrong person. You have the strength, the ideas, and the courage to make me show myself. The heavenly profound holy lady asked indifferently as she looked at Xiao Chen. Thank you for the compliment. Xiao Chen replied with a calm expression. However, right after he said that, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. When he looked at the heavenly profound holy lady, he was shocked to discover that he had to look up to her. It turned out that at some point in time, he had swapped places with the heavenly profound holy lady. He was still seated, and the heavenly profound holy lady was still standing. However, one was standing on the throne, and the other was sitting on the floor of the hall. Sorry, I'm not used to others sitting on my seat and speaking to me. After the heavenly profound holy lady said that, she slowly sat down. Whoosh! The instant the heavenly profound holy lady sat down, the entire hall lit up. The dilapidated hall suddenly became grand and magnificent, giving off a brilliant light. Immortal fog shrouded the floor. The jade pillars in the corridor were white and shiny. The murals carved on them were very lifelike, exquisite, and gorgeous. The throne was also restored. The white-clad woman sat on it, holding her sword. She looked valiant and heroic, her clothes as white as snow, exuding a pressing air of nobility. Xiao Chen instantly felt somewhat intoxicated when he saw this. It was hard to imagine that there could be such a beautiful woman in the world. She could perfectly merge a woman's purity, heroic bearing, and air of nobility. Even a fairy would not be able to compare. Xiao Chen knew that this was an illusion. However, compared to the dilapidated hall in reality, this illusion looked very pleasing to the eye. This was especially so for the woman sitting on the throne. It was truly a delightful sight to behold, and one did not want to leave. Xiao Chen preferred the current appearance of the other party, the one he liked in reality. Although she looked beautiful, she gave off a miserable feeling. Coupled with the dilapidated hall, it was even more sorrowful. Can I ask a question? Xiao Chen asked, breaking this short silence. The heavenly profound holy lady nodded and said, Go ahead. Are you a human or a ghost? The moment Xiao Chen said that, the heavenly profound holy lady's calm expression changed slightly. Faint anger appeared on her face. When Xiao Chen saw this, he quickly apologized, Sorry, I've been curious for a long time. That's why I was bold enough to ask. The heavenly profound holy lady's anger vanished, and she recovered her original expression. She said indifferently, I expected that you would have a question. I originally thought that you would ask why I appeared before you. Unexpectedly, it was this question. I will not tell you the answer to this question. Let me ask you instead. Someone wants to touch my corpse. I want you to help me. Are you willing? Chapter 1446. The heavenly profound holy lady's words did not surprise Xiao Chen, he had expected this long ago. However, the heavenly profound holy lady had only said a few words. It was hard to tell whether she was hiding anything or not. The heavenly profound holy lady's expression also indicated that she was not willing to say more. This made it hard to judge. Xiao Chen thought to himself for a while before saying, "Sure, but you have to help me obtain the cycle arts." Cycle arts? The heavenly profound holy lady entered deep thought. After thinking for a while, she could not recall such a secret manual for the cycle arts. Just as Xiao Chen revealed some doubts, the heavenly profound holy lady said, "I remember now. That is a cultivation technique that my martial granduncle obtained by chance. However, it seems to be an incomplete copy. Even my martial granduncle did not manage to practice it. Are you sure you only want this?" In that case, there was no mistake. It was similar to the information that Xiao Chen obtained. The cycle arts was indeed an incomplete copy. Only by possessing the cycle arts and the 7 thrones, comprehending 7 different states, could one truly succeed in cultivating the cycle arts. No matter how one cultivated, one would not be able to comprehend the state of cycle just by relying on the cycle arts. One needed to comprehend the 7 states, refine the thrones, and use the cycle arts together. However, since ancient times, no one had managed to collect all 7 thrones and obtain the cycle arts at the same time. Hence, no one had truly cultivated the state of cycle. That's right. I only want the cycle arts. The other treasures in this immortal palace have nothing to do with me. Xiao Chen's Dao heart was decisive, only seeking the cycle arts. Although the immortal palace is nearly empty after so many years, there are still many great treasures. As far as I know, there is a universe origin fruit that just matured. The heavenly profound holy lady played it down and said calmly, "It is just an incomplete copy of the cycle arts. If you can help me stop that group of immortal cultivators, consider the universe origin fruit as a gift from me." Universe origin fruit. Naturally, Xiao Chen was interested in it after hearing the hemp-robed old man mention it. However, compared to the cycle arts, it was secondary. I hope that you will keep your word. However, I have some doubts. The people who came to this Mirage Immortal Palace are all experts. In terms of strength, there are many existences that are stronger than me. Why did you choose me? The heavenly profound holy lady narrowed her eyes as she stared at Xiao Chen. She said sullenly, "Because I cannot see through you. You are not a martial emperor yet, but you have 1,000 strands of primordial energy. Your cultivation is comparable to that of an 8th heaven martial emperor, Emperor Wu. He's clearly a martial cultivator, yet he's also a celestial cultivator. He's even reached the soul transformation realm. Furthermore, he's using many secrets that even I can't see through." Xiao Chen was shocked. This woman was truly powerful. With just a glance, she could see through so many of his secrets. One last question. With your strength, do you still need my help? Xiao Chen's eyes were like torches as he stared at the woman, hoping to find some clues from her face. The heavenly profound holy lady shook her head gently. "I can't explain too much to you. No matter how strong I am, I cannot attack anyone in this world." Xiao Chen pondered for a moment before saying, "All right, I'll believe your explanation for now. I promise you, and I hope you'll keep your word. Come with me." The illusion vanished, and the dazzling palace turned dilapidated again. Xiao Chen discovered that he was still sitting on the broken throne. However, he had fallen for the other party's illusion without him realizing it. He could not help raising his guard. This woman's illusion was too strong, simply incredible. Xiao Chen leaped up from the throne and landed beside the heavenly profound holy lady. Then, he followed her and quickly moved through the ethereal immortal palace. Along the way, they passed several large halls and stone rooms. With a quick glance, they discovered many supreme treasures protected by strong restrictions. These treasures had not melted even after 1,000,000 years. There were even piles of corpses in front of the supreme treasures. They must have died in the restrictions. This made one's heart tremble. Their greed slowly cooled, and they regained their rationality. Of the various halls, there were pill pavilions, herb fields, blacksmithing halls, and many cultivation rooms for the heavenly profound sect's seniors. Many of the cultivation rooms had murals with traces of the Tao lingering in them. This was probably what Feng Shao was searching for. However, it was not easy to enter. The cultivation rooms of the elders all had many ancient restrictions and mechanisms. As Xiaochen advanced, he felt that he was following the heavenly profound holy lady into the depths of the ethereal immortal palace. After asking around, it was indeed so. The heavenly profound holy lady's corpse was in the deepest layer of the ethereal immortal palace. As they went deeper, Xiaochen felt the cold qi grow increasingly heavier. At the same time, the immortal qi also grew denser. This was very strange. Celestial spiritual energy should give people a very comfortable feeling, but the celestial spiritual energy here was especially cold. Xiaochen guessed that the heavenly profound holy lady had purposely set this up to cultivate the ghost immortal Tao. How fast! This group of people actually already reached the 9th floor. When the heavenly profound holy lady arrived at another entrance and saw the broken restrictions, her expression changed slightly. Below the entrance should be the deepest layer of the ethereal immortal palace. Xiaochen could not help feeling curious. What was the scene of the heavenly profound holy lady's closed-door cultivation back then? Unexpectedly, the heavenly profound holy lady continued, "You cannot enter from here. They will discover you. I'll bring you in from another entrance." Before Xiaochen could react, the heavenly profound holy lady quickly left. Xiaochen thought about it. The two immortal venerates were shrewd and experienced people. Based on the restrictions they left at the entrance of the hall, it was clear that they had some backup plans. Xiaochen quickly followed the heavenly profound holy lady and left. After a while, he followed the heavenly profound holy lady to the next floor. There was an unremarkable old well in this side hall that had been sealed for a long time. Split it open. Xiaochen did as he was told. Along the way, there were many restrictions. The heavenly profound holy lady had pointed out the method, and Xiaochen had taken action. This was enough to show that the other party was under some kind of restriction and could not make a move. Bang! The well cover was lifted, and a pungent stench wafted out. Xiaochen squinted and saw a pool of blood in the well. When the turbid qi scattered, the blood became clear and transparent, giving off an ethereal feeling. What is this? Xiaochen found something unusual. The blood in the old well was not ordinary. The heavenly profound holy lady recalled the past, and her expression became complicated. She said sullenly, "This is the 10,000 fetus blood spring that I refined back then. Jump in, and you can swim to the next floor." 10,000 fetus blood spring. This woman is really ruthless and vicious. Xiaochen, you have to be careful. Little 3, the item spirit in the 3-life mirror, suddenly warned Xiaochen. What's wrong? What's so special about the 10,000 fetus blood spring? I can't explain it to you now. In any case, just be careful of this woman. Don't get bewitched by her. Little 3 did not want to explain too much, only warning Xiaochen to be careful of the heavenly profound holy lady. Xiaochen glanced at the heavenly profound holy lady. After hesitating for a moment, he jumped in. The blood spring was extremely cool. Xiaochen held his breath and focused as he swam down the well. At the same time, in the 9th floor, Immortal Venerate Ming Yu and Immortal Venerate Tian Yi led 10-odd immortal cultivators. Breaking one restriction after another, they kept advancing. Every time they broke a restriction, this group of immortal cultivators would set up a restriction of their own. After breaking many restrictions, the Immortal Palace's 9th floor finally revealed itself to these people. As far as the eye could see, the 9th floor was an incomparably vast blood-colored lake. Countless white flower petals floated on the surface of the lake, with lanterns in the center of the petals. The white flower petals clustered around a black coffin in the center of the lake. Blood, white flowers, lanterns, and coffin. The atmosphere of the entire 9th level was extremely strange. It was empty and cold, and there was nothing but a blood-colored lake. There were also the thousands of white flowers and the inextinguishable lanterns accompanying the lonely coffin. Master, the legend is true. These petals are hell void flowers, and they burn with the extreme yang true flame. An immortal cultivator said excitedly, unable to hold back his excitement. Yin and yang could not merge. However, the ghost immortal Tao moved between yin and yang, needing to merge the two. The hell void flowers represented extreme yin energy. The extreme yang true flame burning on them was the only yang attributed flame that could burn on the hell void flowers. Immortal Venerate Mingyu looked at the coffin and sighed softly. This heavenly profound holy lady was truly magnificent back then. To think that she managed to think of such an ingenious method of merging yin and yang. I am ashamed of my inferiority. As Immortal Venerate Tian-yi looked at the vast scarlet lake, he sighed as well. This pool of blood should be the 10,000 fetus blood spring. Such a feat is unprecedented since ancient times. No one else can do it. Her boldness to pursue the immortal Tao is also much greater than the two of us. These two were immortal venerates, the strongest immortal cultivators in the world. As they looked at this pool of blood, they were deeply impressed. If the heavenly profound holy lady were here, these two would definitely cast aside their dignity and beg her to take them in as a disciple. Chapter 1447. Immortal Venerate Mingyu and Immortal Venerate Tian-yi silently watched the scarlet lake. The void flower and the extreme yang true flame were in a delicate balance. One was extreme yin, while the other was extreme yang. If the balance was broken, it would definitely cause an explosion. Looking at the tens of thousands of void flowers on the surface of the lake, Zhang Xian knew that if they exploded, the consequences would be dire. Furthermore, this was only the method on the surface. No one knew if there were any other restrictions in the coffin. Ancestors, do you want us to test them out first? One of the 6 disciples standing behind the immortal supremacy stepped forward and said. They had come here with the identity of a death warrior. Many of the restrictions had been broken at the cost of their lives. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the restrictions to be broken so quickly. From the original team of 100 people, only 6 people were left. However, these people had no regrets. As long as they could obtain the method to cultivate to become a ghost immortal, it would be a form of release for all the immortal cultivators of the Penglai Sea. The path that the immortal cultivators had been unable to pursue could also be made up for in another way. If he couldn't become a celestial immortal, then he would become a ghost immortal. As long as he was an immortal, that was enough. Immortal Venerate Tian-yi shook his head and said, "There's no need. I'll do it myself." As the strongest person in the Penglai Sea, Immortal Venerate Tian-yi had cultivated to the void refinement realm long ago. He should have transcended the tribulation long ago to become an immortal and ascend to the Tao. Unfortunately, no matter how talented Xiao Chen was or how strong he was in this martial epoch, he could never touch the immortal path. Forming a hand seal with one hand, Immortal Venerate Tian-yi pointed forward. Boundless magic power gathered at his fingertips, emitting a dazzling spiritual light before disappearing like a breeze. Immortal Venerate Tian-yi infused his magic energy into every petal of the sky flower. He did not dare to be careless as he stretched out his hand and slowly moved it upwards. In the void flower on the blood lake seemed to be pulled by something and slowly rose up. Soon, the sky was filled with flower petals containing the extreme yang true fire, floating in the air. The sky flower and extreme yang true fire, which were in a delicate balance, were peaceful and quiet. They were not damaged at all. Immortal Venerate Tian-yi's expression did not relax. He slowly raised his right hand, controlling the flowers in the sky to slowly rise. Boom! Amidst the quiet atmosphere, Immortal Venerate Tian Yi's left hand suddenly launched a ferocious attack. A spot of light shot out like lightning. Success or failure depended on this moment. The white petals in the air tottered, and the flames flickered as if they would explode at any moment. When the storm passed, everything stopped. The disciples at the back looked over carefully. Only then did he realize that there was an ancient lamp hovering above all the void flowers. The ancient lamp released thousands of rays of light that guided all the empty flowers. They were like tentacles that didn't allow the empty flowers to fall. My ancient lamp can last for an hour. An hour later, 10,000 flowers fell. The consequences were unthinkable. We only have less than an hour. Immortal Venerate Tian Yi said with an extremely grave expression. A trace of exhaustion flashed in his eyes. Clearly, the earlier action had exhausted a lot of his mind. Go! A sense of urgency spread in everyone's hearts. Under Immortal Venerate Tian Yi's lead, everyone walked on the water, heading for the coffin in the middle of the blood spring. The group did not dare to lower their heads to look at the lake formed by the 10,000 fetus blood spring. After a while, the group arrived before the coffin. The heavy coffin did not have any dust on it at all, looking as clean as it was before. Red nails covered the four sides of the coffin, and a talisman stuck in the middle of each side. Pa! Immortal Venerate Mingyu stretched out his hand and smacked the coffin heavily. Whoosh! 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 Coffin nails shot out. The 6 disciples at the back moved quickly, using all sorts of methods to catch the coffin nails. After all the coffin nails came out, the only remaining obstacles were the 2 coffin sealing talismans. The 2 immortal venerates stood at one end, watching carefully as they tried to find a perfect way to break the seal. Immortal sealing talisman. After a while, the 2 immortal venerates exclaimed at the same time, startled. When the 2 immortal venerates looked at each other, they saw horror in each other's eyes. Then, they showed some hesitation. The immortal sealing talisman was not a very strong talisman. However, its origins were startling. During the immortal epoch, the immortal sealing talisman was normally used to seal some taboo existences. It was the highest level of sealing talismans. The name Immortal Sealing Talisman did not refer to its use to seal immortals. Instead, it referred to its strong sealing power, which could inspire fear in immortals. There were very few places in the world where the immortal sealing talisman was useful. Furthermore, the method to refine this immortal sealing talisman was incredibly difficult, even during the immortal epoch. At this moment, the 2 immortal venerates looked at the immortal sealing talisman and the coffin, hesitating. What if there was some unknown existence sealed in it? Once they tore it off, the consequences would be unpredictable. Perhaps they would end up losing their lives here because of the Ghost Immortals cultivation method. That would not be worth it, and it might even invite a great disaster. Tian Yi, what should we decide? Immortal Venerate Mingyu looked at Immortal Venerate Tian Yi, asking for his decision. At this point, the situation already surpassed their expectations. Only Immortal Venerate Tian Yi could make the decision. Should I give up or gamble? Immortal Venerate Tian Yi felt conflicted. Along the way, for the sake of breaking the restrictions along the way, the 100-man team had died, leaving only 8 people. The specially refined ghost ship had taken the Penglai Sea 1,000 years to make. All for the sake of snatching the initiative and entering the Mirage Immortal Palace in advance. Now, everything went smoothly. However, they had to stop at the final step. This was simply unsatisfying. Open. Immortal Venerate Tian Yi no longer hesitated, making up his mind. Have you ever thought that the Treasure Master was lying to us? Perhaps there is no Ghost Immortals cultivation method in there. Immortal Venerate Mingyu suddenly said just as Tian Yi was about to tear off the Immortal Sealing Talisman. Immortal Venerate Tian Yi shook his head and said, that won't happen. The Treasure Master used an oath stone. If he lied, the heavenly tribulation would kill him. My two great limits are approaching. If I do not become an immortal, I will die. More importantly, the 3 million immortal cultivators of the Penglai Sea need hope. Pu Ci. Just at this moment, the Scarlet Lake suddenly splashed up. A head popped up. This person was Xiao Chen, who had been diving all the way, holding his breath. When Xiao Chen floated up, he immediately saw the two immortal venerates surrounding the black coffin and their 6 great realization realm disciples. Snatch my coffin over. We cannot let them tear off the immortal sealing talisman. The heavenly profound holy lady's voice rang out in Xiao Chen's ears. He squinted and looked over. Indeed, there was a talisman on each side of the coffin. Without much hesitation, Xiao Chen leaped out like a fish and flew towards the coffin. Stop him. The person who suddenly appeared startled the two immortal venerates. Then, they quickly made a decision. The 6 immortal cultivators stretched out their hands, and their magic treasures pressed towards Xiao Chen. The first to bear the brunt of the attack was a flying sword. Such magic treasures had the sharpest attacks and the fastest speed. Although it looked like a small sword, it could easily split mountains and seas. Void-breaking stance. As Xiao Chen held pride, he executed the flawless saber technique and swung his saber. He gathered a boundless saber might and knocked the flying sword away with a loud dang. The rebound caused Xiao Chen's arm to go numb. He could not even raise his right hand. My spiritual light sword. When that immortal cultivator saw his magic treasure knocked away and its spiritual energy drained, he was greatly startled. After the flying sword, a 4-legged cauldron, a resplendent pearl, and a lightning net attacked at the same time. The cultivation of these 6 immortal cultivators was not low, all of them in the great realization realm. Their magic treasures had been thoroughly tempered, nourished by their qi and blood for a long time. They were all life magic treasures. When these 6 worked together, even the 9th Heaven's Emperor Wu would have to retreat, temporarily avoiding their sharpness. However, when facing immortal cultivators, once they retreated, it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven if they wanted to get close. Heaven swallowing stance. A fierce fighting spirit appeared in Xiao Chen's eyes. He switched out the weapon in his hand for the 7 deadly sins greed and executed the 7th move of the flawless saber technique, Heaven swallowing stance. This move contained boundless might, representing Xiao Chen's ambition for the flawless saber technique. Heaven swallowing. This saber technique could swallow up any martial technique and bury it in the vast flawless great Tao. When the saber light chopped out, Xiao Chen's body gave off boundless light. Each beam of light represented one of the mysteries of the flawless saber technique. The beams of light gathered into a sea of great Tao. As Xiao Chen swung his saber light, it turned into a huge mouth that could hold up the sky. At the crucial moment, the mouth swallowed up all the magic treasures flying at it. How can it be like this? The 5 immortal cultivators instantly lost track of their magic treasures, all of them panicking. Scatter. How could Xiao Chen care so much? He charged forward. After he got close, he swept his sleeves and sent these 6 immortal cultivators flying. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. The 2 immortal venerates had already used their various means to tear most of the immortal sealing talisman apart. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiao Chen did not have much time to think. He kicked the coffin into the air, sending it spinning. Chapter 1448. Xiao Chen kicked the coffin containing the heavenly profound holy lady's corpse away violently, instantly interrupting the actions of the 2 immortal venerates. The half-removed immortal sealing talisman was pasted back on. All their efforts had gone to waste. The 2 immortal venerates were stunned. While they were distracted, Xiao Chen's figure flashed. He flew forward and hoisted the spinning coffin on his shoulder with one hand, looking warily at the 2 immortal venerates. Immortal venerate Ming Yu and immortal venerate Tian Yi, these 2 old men, wore ancient Taoist robes and gave off an air of sages. After being stunned for a moment, these 2 old men immediately reacted and locked their auras on Xiao Chen. I've heard of you, Shadowless Saber Sovereign. Immortal venerate Tian Yi suddenly said, not showing any joy or sorrow. He only looked at Xiao Chen with a sharp gaze. There was a formless sharpness, like a saber wind, blowing over coldly and mercilessly. Ripples appeared on the scarlet lake. Xiao Chen looked at the rippling lake water. While hoisting the coffin, he said, "Oh. Unexpectedly, there are people in the Penglai Sea who have heard of my name. I am extremely honored. I have heard of the Penglai Sea for a long time already. However, I have not been able to enter." Immortal Venerate Mingyu smiled faintly. The lake water under his feet rippled as he moved back without leaving a trace. He said with a wide smile, "Is that so? If there is a chance, I really can come to the Penglai Sea as a guest. The 3 immortal venerates will definitely entertain you personally." Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled. "In that case, many thanks for the invitation. In the past, I worried about coming uninvited. Now, it looks like there is no need to worry. However, do the immortal venerates of the Penglai Sea have the habit of moving back when they speak?" As the two spoke, Xiao Chen, who was hoisting the coffin, took a step forward unhurriedly. The fight had already begun, unfolding invisibly. When fighting with immortal cultivators, one should never give the other party a suitable distance. Otherwise, there might not be a chance for regret. With their spells broken, the 2 immortal venerates' faces sank at the same time, and they stopped moving back. Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi said in a deep voice, "I do not know why you snatched the sage coffin. I only want you to hand it over now. Otherwise, you will die very miserably. Unfortunately, you can't stop me if I want to leave." Xiao Chen, who had been preparing in secret, pushed off the ground and executed the fish dragon art in an instant. Transforming from fish to dragon, Zhang Xian shot forward and was about to leave the lake. Reckless fool. Immortal Venerable Tian-Yi snorted coldly and a powerful aura burst forth from his body as he stretched out his hand. On the surface of the lake, a realistic blood-colored giant hand condensed. The huge scarlet hand clenched, and Xiao Chen, who had already dodged, felt a suction force. Before he could even react, his body was grabbed tightly, and an endless pressure pressed down on his body from all directions. Kacha! 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 Cracks appeared on his bones. Xiao Chen felt intense pain all over his body. He only suffered some light injuries. When Immortal Venerate Mingyu saw that nothing was wrong with Xiao Chen's body, he was greatly startled. The giant spirit hand was Immortal Venerable Tian-Yi's best divine ability. Even the golden body of Emperor Wu of the 9 heavens could not withstand it. If grabbed by this gigantic spirit hand, at best, one's bones would shatter. At worst, one's heart of an emperor would shatter. What was an immortal lord? An immortal lord was an existence that had cultivated the immortal Tao to its limits. Unless an utmost being appeared, no one could suppress them. Hurry up and attack. This guy's fleshly body is comparable to an existence who has proven his Tao through his fleshly body. I feel like I won't be able to restrain him for long. Immortal Exalt Tian-Yi shouted with a grave expression. Without further ado, Immortal Venerable Mingyu quickly took action, and a bell appeared in his hand. Xiao Chen shook it gently, and a furious roar resounded in Xiao Chen's ears. The vital qi that Xiao Chen had just gathered poured out like a flash flood. Cracks appeared in his internal organs. Puchi. There was a sweet taste in his throat, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of warm blood. The saber in Xiao Chen's hand and the coffin on his shoulder fell into the lake. Immortal Venerable Mingyu rejoiced in his heart. Then, he quickly shook the bell in his hand. The sound waves immediately surged towards Xiao Chen like they could topple mountains and flip the seas. Xiao Chen's freed left hand pulled the coffin over to him. Damn it! Since Xiao Chen made his debut as the Shadowless Saber Sovereign, this was the first time he ended up in such a sorry state. He had indeed underestimated the means of an immortal venerable. However, without a saber in hand, he did not have to worry about the coffin, so he did not have to worry about it. Xiao Chen roared ferociously, and the vital qi in his body surged as he let out a thunderous roar. 1,000 dragon force instantly burst out and shattered the gigantic scarlet spirit hand with a loud bang. Dragon tone art. The instant Xiaochen struggled free of the restriction, he quickly executed the dragon tone art that he had not used for a long time. A huge true dragon formed in the air. The dragon coiled around Xiaochen and hovered above Xiaochen's head. The instant Xiaochen opened his mouth and roared, the true dragon roared. The sound waves were like an erupting volcano, knocking back immortal Venerable Mingyu's sound waves. Bang! 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 The sound waves surged, and pillars of water shot up from the surface of the lake. The thousands of flowers in the sky, which the ancient lantern guided, trembled slightly. The bell in immortal Venerable Mingyu's hand flew out of his hand. The lake water surged over like rain. After immortal Venerable Tian-Yi waved his sleeves, the surging waves splashed everywhere. Immortal Venerable Tian-Yi stepped forward and grabbed a corner of the flying coffin. However, he discovered that Xiaochen had grabbed the other corner as well. Immortal Venerable Tian-Yi raised his head and looked at Xiaochen. Sword. The instant their gazes met, Xiaochen felt his entire body turn cold. A dangerous aura surged over. It was a sword in the eyes. Peak major magic skill, sword in the eyes. There was no time for Xiaochen to think. He stretched out his hand, and the gluttony saber, which had fallen to the bottom of the lake, flew into his grasp. Then, he held it horizontally before his eyes. Dang! The saber in Xiaochen's hand nearly flew out. Then, he went flying back 100 meters, vomiting another mouthful of blood. Fortunately, when Xiaochen retreated, he held on tightly to the coffin. On the other hand, immortal Venerable Tian-Yi's vital qi was not as strong as Xiaochen's, so he managed to struggle free. Where do you think you are going? Ancient Moon. When immortal Venerable Mingyu, whose magic treasure was knocked away, saw that Xiaochen was leaving, he held up his hands to the sky. A blood moon rose from the bottom of the lake in front of Xiaochen. The strong aura of the blood moon made Xiaochen feel as insignificant as an ant. This magic skill touched on the state of space. That feeling of insignificance was not illusory but very real. The blood moon in the sky before Xiaochen was like a tall mountain protruding from the ground. Xiaochen used the ancient moon to shatter the other party's aura and fighting spirit. In front of this blood moon, an ordinary martial artist would be overwhelmed by a feeling of insignificance. They would feel a great sense of powerlessness and lose their will to fight. Good timing. Shatter for me. However, Xiaochen laughed loudly. He switched positions with gluttony and executed the flawless saber technique's third move, falling moon stance. A saber light flickered, and a figure soared into the air. Falling moon. The bright moon, which had just left the surface of the lake, had yet to rise when Xiaochen chopped it in half with his saber, causing it to fall back into the lake. Immortal Venerable Mingyu paled. He exclaimed, "How can this be? My magic skill, nothing was impossible." By the time Xiaochen chopped this bright moon, he was already one step closer to the edge of the blood lake. The two immortal venerates were truly difficult to deal with. Xiaochen kept feeling like he was punching cotton. He could not truly injure the other party, but he ended up in a sorry state. This old man did not agree to let you go. Picturesque mountains and rivers, armored horses. Immortal Venerable Tian-Yi seemed to be truly enraged. His clothes flapped loudly, and a brush appeared in his hand. Immortal Venerable Tian-Yi clenched his teeth and vomited a mouthful of blood, dyeing the tip of the brush red. Using blood as ink, he splashed the brush. Instantly, Xiaochen discovered that the ground below him had turned into an ancient battlefield. Heavy war drums rang out, echoing in the sky. Dust flew everywhere, blinding Xiaochen's senses. He was momentarily at a loss on this desolate battlefield as he carried the coffin. Dong! 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 Loud battle cries rang out in the boundless dust cloud. Amid the haze, a vast army charged at Xiaochen from all directions. When Xiaochen saw such a vast formation, he could not help smiling bitterly. Immortal venerates were indeed not as easy to deal with as he thought. However, Xiaochen also had a temper. Since immortal venerates did not allow him to leave, then he would not. Dang! The coffin landed heavily on the ground, and the cycle throne appeared. Xiaochen sat on it, radiating a sovereign emperor's might. Xiaochen drew his 7 divine weapons one after another. The dust cloud on the ground gathered. He stretched out his hand and grasped the divine weapons. Xiaochen's fingers slowly tapped on the armrest of the throne. The sabers buzzed and turned into boundless saber lights shooting out. Figures took form on the ground one after another. They leaped into the air and grabbed the saber lights flying over. In reality, Immortal Venerable Mingyu and Immortal Venerable Tian-Yi heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the long painting in front of them. Immortal Venerable Mingyu smiled and said, "Picturesque mountains and rivers, armored horses. Once this painting is completed, no matter who it is, they will be exhausted by the endless slaughter and die a miserable death on the battlefield." Pu Ci. Right after Immortal Venerable Ming spoke, the long painting tore in the middle. 1,000 people wielding sabers charged out of the painting together with the throne, Xiaochen, amid a resounding aura of kill. The 2 immortal venerates were startled, their complexions pale. In a fluster, they used their trump cards and retreated. Chapter 1449. Xiaochen led the 1,000 blades men out of the painting. If ordinary people were trapped here, they would have to fight for a long time. Not to mention how severely injured they would at least be exhausted. After breaking out of the painting, they would be at the mercy of others. However, Xiaochen, who had the yin-yang saber formation, was clearly an exception. Using the might of 1,000 people to drive the yin-yang saber formation, he forcefully opened a path and broke out of the painting. Whoosh! 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 The 1,000 blades men stood on the blood lake with their sabers in hand, surrounding the 2 immortal venerates. Wherever the sabers pointed, killing chi spread out. The cold and sinister weapons caused the temperature of the blood lake to plummet. Strands of cold air drifted over the surface of the lake, making one's heart palpitate. Senior brother Tian-Yi, almost half of the 1 hour has passed. If this drags on, the 10,000 flowers will descend. The consequences will be dire. Surrounded by 1,000 blades men, Immortal Venerate Mingyu and Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi felt very anxious. However, the battle in front of them wasn't what made them anxious. The bigger problem was the tens of thousands of void flowers hanging above their heads. Each void flower had an extremely concentrated spot of extreme yang true flame. Just the thought of tens of thousands of spots of extreme yang true flame exploding together would make one tremble in fear. Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi showed a grave expression as he looked at Xiaochen, who was on the throne behind him, and frowned. This shadowless saber sovereign was simply too difficult to deal with. He was already harder to deal with than a regular 9th Heaven Emperor Wu. Xiaochen could suppress a regular 9th Heaven Emperor Wu by himself. If he worked together with Immortal Venerate Mingyu, it would be even easier. However, this shadowless saber sovereign seemed to have endless backup plans, able to break or block Immortal Venerate Mingyu's various magic skills. This was not because Xiaochen was as strong as a 9th Heaven Emperor Wu. It was just that he had too many trump cards and dual-cultivated Immortal Venerate Mingyu. The 2 immortal venerates were still far from being able to suppress him with immortal arts. Seated on the throne, Xiaochen looked at the 2 immortal venerates and said, "I have no grudge with the 2 of you. I was only entrusted by someone to protect this coffin. I hope the 2 immortal venerables will stop here." Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi snorted coldly and said, "The shadowless saber sovereign is really gracious. I'm afraid that your 1,000-man saber formation exhausted a lot of energy. After the battle in the painting, it won't last much longer." That's why he said that. Xiaochen said in a deep voice, "You guessed correctly, but I have no intention of hiding it. I still have to repeat myself, if I want to leave, you can't stop me. Don't waste your efforts, otherwise, no one will benefit. You can leave, but the divine coffin must stay." Immortal Venerable Tian Yi's tone was firm and decisive, leaving no room for negotiation. Do you think you can stop me? Shao Qin smiled coldly, and the yin-yang saber formation immediately formed. A huge taiji diagram appeared on the blood lake. The 1,000 bladesmen split into 500 bladesmen, their auras merged into one. They were like the extreme points of yin and yang in the taiji diagram, each occupying a side, swimming around like two dragons. As the formation activated, a strong pressure pressed down on Immortal Venerate Tian Yi and Immortal Venerate Bright Moon. With every revolution, the invisible mountain pressing down on the two of them seemed to become heavier. Sweat trickled down Immortal Venerate Ming Yu's forehead. He felt incredibly nervous. The two roaming dragons were like a huge long knife stuck to his neck. The taiji saber domain under Immortal Venerate Tian Yi and Immortal Venerate Tian Yi formlessly stuck to their movements. The two Immortal Venerates, who were not good at movement techniques in the first place, found it even harder to move in this taiji saber domain. Once the saber formation was activated, their protective magic treasures would not be able to block it, and their physical bodies would be destroyed. Cultivators were very strong. However, even if they grasped their weaknesses, they were still incredibly weak. It looks like I underestimated you. However, if you really dare to, then go ahead and make your move. All I need is a thought, and everyone will die here. Immortal Venerate Tian Yi had not expected Shao Chen to be able to maintain such a huge saber formation. He was somewhat surprised, but he did not show any fear in the face of danger. Is that so? What other trump cards do you have? All I need is one strike to shatter your protective magic treasures. With my speed, I can kill both of your bodies in a breath's time. Shao Chen said indifferently, I said it before. I do not want to be enemies with the two of you. As long as you are willing to let me go, everything is negotiable. The current situation was very complicated. If Shao Chen scattered the saber formation and left, the distance between them would increase again. At that time, if they wanted to leave, they would have to fight like before, getting exhausted by the other party's magic skills. However, Shao Chen hesitated on killing these two. After all, he still had to make a trip to the Penglai Sea in the future. He could not make things too difficult to deal with. Furthermore, Shao Chen was currently forcibly driving this saber formation. If he really attacked, he would overdraw on his magic energy, and his mind would be extremely fatigued. Shao Chen had many concerns. However, if the other party continued to pester him, he could only kill them. Look up and see the flames on the flower petals in the air. That is an extremely concentrated extreme yang true flame. The heavenly profound holy lady personally refined it. With just a bit of it, she can severely injure First Heaven Emperor Wu. If 10,000 spots of extreme yang true flames explode at the same time, no one under prime can survive. Even if your physical body is comparable to the top 9th Heaven Emperor Wu, don't even think about leaving here alive. Immortal Venerable Tian Yi took a step forward and looked coldly at Shao Chen as he spoke in a deep voice. You also know that immortal cultivators have yuanying. Even if the physical body is destroyed, the yuanying can reincarnate once through possession. Shadowless Saber Sovereign, you cannot afford to play with me. His aura surged. He was clearly at a disadvantage, but he was still overbearing. What he said is true. Perhaps I'm destined to suffer this calamity after I die. The heavenly profound holy lady's voice rang out beside Shao Chen's ear. She did not intend to continue arguing, hinting for Shao Chen to give up. Looking up at the 10,000 petals in the sky, Shao Chen saw that there was indeed an ancient lamp attached to each petal. His expression flickered as he muttered to himself. Immortal Venerable Ming Yu heaved a sigh of relief and somewhat admired his senior brother. In the end, it was still his senior brother who could remain calm. However, cultivators also suffered great losses when their nascent souls were reincarnated. If they changed bodies and started cultivating from scratch, they would definitely not be able to cultivate to Immortal Venerate. I'll give you 10 seconds to consider. After 10 seconds, regardless of whether you agree or not, I will make the magic treasure drop these 10,000 void flowers. After Immortal Venerable Tianyi finished speaking, he stared at Xiao Chen. For the sake of the millions of immortal cultivators of the Penglai Sea, he had to stake it all this time. If he did not be ruthless to himself, there would be no hope. If Immortal Venerable Tianyi were born in a chaotic era, he would definitely be a ruthless and ambitious person. Not everyone had such boldness. There's no need. I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. Either you agree to let me go, or I'll make a move immediately. You can bet on whether I can kill your Yuanying before the 10,000 flowers fall. Xiao Chen had never liked others taking the initiative. He hated being threatened even more. Want to bet? In that case, feel free to bet. 1, 2, right after Immortal Venerable Tianyi spoke, Xiao Chen started counting, not giving Immortal Venerable Tianyi any time to think. How can it be like this? Immortal Venerable Tianyi's calm face turned somewhat flustered. 3. Xiao Chen did not have any intention of being deliberately mystifying. He quickly finished counting, and the yin-yang saber formation activated at full power. 2 true dragons formed by saber intents in the formation charged at the 2 immortal venerates. Stop! We are willing to let you go. Immortal Venerable Tianyi shouted when he saw the huge dragons formed by the boundless saber intents about to swallow up the physical bodies of the 2. It's too late. You already had this intention. Why the need to force me to make a move? Xiao Chen said expressionlessly from the throne. Xiao Chen had not reached the level where he could control such a vast saber formation as he pleased. If he forcefully stopped, he would only suffer a backlash. Furthermore, Immortal Venerable Tianyi had never thought of stopping. Immortal Venerable Tianyi had a calm and decisive nature. However, his bones hid an unrestrained nature that no outstanding talent could compare to. If one's hands and feet were tied in everything, what was the point of living? If you want to play big, then play big. Let's see who can afford to play. Shadowless Saber Sovereign, this old man will do as you wish. Just as the saber dragons were about to swallow up Immortal Venerable Tianyi roared hoarsely, and the ancient lamp instantly shattered. 10,000 flower petals drifted down like snowflakes, carrying the fatal extreme yang true flame as they fell. Chapter 1450. Going too far is as bad as not going far enough. These 4 words were applicable everywhere. For example, the beautiful rain of flowers in front of him. Tens of thousands of sparks took the extremes of yin and yang and danced in the air. It was hard to find a beautiful scene in the world that could surpass what was before their eyes. However, if it was too beautiful, it would not be a good thing. When these 10,000 sparks exploded at the same time, it would not be a good thing. It was the scythe of the Grim Reaper. It was much more terrifying than even the most ferocious beast. Xiao Chen did not have the time to appreciate this beautiful scenery, nor did he think about the consequences of the 10,000 flowers falling. He had more important things to do. He wanted to kill. He had requested to leave several times, but was refused. Ever since Immortal Venerable Tianyi was so overbearing, threatening to perish together with him and forcing him to submit, the killing intent in Immortal Venerable Tianyi's heart had been quietly growing. Until now, he couldn't help but be unwilling to stop. He let this murderous intent surge in his heart and run wild in every cell of his body. A man had to be ruthless. Once his killing intent was aroused, he could not be soft and decisive. Thus, when Immortal Exalted Tianyi begged for forgiveness, Xiao Chen rejected him without the slightest trace of politeness. Who knows whether or not you'll cause more trouble, whether or not you'll play some petty tricks. Kill. Within the Taiji Saber domain, the yin-yang dragons formed by boundless saber intent roared ferociously. The strong wind engulfed Immortal Venerate Tianyi and Immortal Venerate Mingyu. Dang! 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 2 tornadoes were formed, and within the tornadoes, a continuous clanging sound could be heard. Each true dragon was made up of 500 bladesmen. They used the Taiji Saber domain to merge together. When they erupted, they would continuously attack their targets. Even Xiao Chen would find it hard to deal with the combined strength of 500 people, let alone two immortal supremacies. After a long time, specks of light appeared in the storm. They were the essence of the protective magic treasure that had been destroyed. A hint of coldness flashed in the depths of his eyes. On the throne, Xiao Chen was like a taut bowstring, shooting out like a phantom. Holding the 7 deadly sins jealousy blade in his hand, he swung the blade and danced. Flawless saber technique, 4th move, heartbreaking stance. This move, heart-shattering, first shatters oneself, then shatters the enemy. When this saber light was chopped out, Xiao Chen's heart would shatter. Heartbreaking stance was the most extreme move in the flawless saber technique with the most negative emotions. In the flawless saber technique, the heartbreaking stance contained the most negative emotions and was the most extreme move. That day, Xiao Chen had hesitated of whether to create this move or not. The saber Dao Dao Chen long far was far far away. Once he fell into it, it was very likely that he would not be able to extricate himself, and the power of the saber move might be beyond his control. Saber to the saber deadly. Saber the saber as good. Of a bad, the saber would be good as in as saber. Would he? Of the saber. Good. Far, 1. Out, after. Good. Of Chinwell. The storm dissipated, and the two immortal venerables vomited blood as they retreated frantically. They were at a loss of what to do, and all sorts of hand seals rapidly changed. It was too late. Xiao Chen had been waiting for this moment for far too long. The instant Xiao Chen emerged from the storm, a trace of blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. His entire body gave off an evil green light. The horrifying baleful aura that appeared in their field of vision scared the two so much that their limbs trembled and their guts ruptured. Immortal Venerate Tian felt extreme regret in his heart. To think that he threatened such a ruthless person. The falling flowers did not affect the other party's mental state in the slightest. Instead, it strengthened his killing intent. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have said those harsh words. Puchi. Blood splattered everywhere. The moment the two's bodies came into contact with the saber, they shattered into dust and fell into the blood lake. 2 human-shaped beams of light shot out and attached themselves to their natal magic treasures. Like a laser movie, they quickly escaped. Shadowless Saber Sovereign, just you wait. The debt of having my physical body destroyed today will be paid in blood in the future. You simply do not know who you offended. You cannot afford to offend the major character behind the Penglai Sea. The resentment of Immortal Venerate Ming Yu and Immortal Venerate Tian Yi appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. Xiao Chen looked at these 2 Yuaniing cultivators who looked like stray dogs and could not be bothered with them. Jealousy bounced back into the throne. 2 spots of light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes and spun quickly. He gently tapped with his right index finger, and a light flashed in his eyes. A tiny Taiji yin-yang flame diagram shot out from his fingertip and continuously expanded. Eventually, it expanded to cover the entire lake, gently holding back the 10,000 void flowers. Half of the primordial energy in Xiao Chen's body instantly vanished. However, when he looked at the 10,000 flower petals that were about to fall in another half a meter, he felt extremely relieved. It was worth it. Intense fatigue assaulted Xiao Chen's mind. Then, he directly lay down. The cycle throne sensed it and flew over, catching Xiao Chen. As he lay on the throne, Xiao Chen squinted slightly, nearly wiping away the blood at the corner of his lips. In order to chase away these 2 immortal venerates, Xiao Chen was completely drained, covered in injuries. Not only was his magic energy drained, but he also severely overdrafted. His heart was even more injured. Fortunately, Xiao Chen managed to chase away the 2 immortal venerates and protect the coffin. If one looked carefully, one would discover that under Xiao Chen's weak appearance, there was a powerful sharpness hidden in his right eye. A peerless sharpness was hidden in his right eye. His strongest trump card, the Divine Lightning Eye, was already quietly circulating. Right now, it was far from time to truly rest. The weak appearance was just a facade that Xiaochen put on. The heavenly profound holy lady was someone that little three had repeatedly warned him about. However, Xiaochen had never let down his guard. The extremely beautiful and bewitching heavenly profound holy lady silently appeared before Xiaochen. The heavenly profound holy lady glanced indifferently at Xiaochen, her gaze pausing on his right eye for a moment. "What is the name of the final saber strike?" the heavenly profound holy lady asked. "Heartbreak." "Good name. Many years ago, I had such a sword strike as well. It is called Heartbreak. Unexpectedly, after 1,000,000 years, I saw a saber strike that achieved the same result through a different method. It looks like we are really fated." Xiaochen was not surprised in his heart. The other party was an absolute genius who had cultivated the martial Tao to the peak and then scattered all her cultivation techniques to forcibly cultivate immortal cultivation. Wrong. Not only are we not fated, but our paths are different. I did it on purpose, but you got used to it. If my guess is correct, when you practice that heart-shatter sword until the end, your entire heart will be gone. Xiaochen continued unhurriedly, the pain reached its peak, and the heart could no longer be reconnected. This sword is heartless. I really want to see how strong that might is. How did you guess that? The heavenly profound holy lady's expression changed, but her expression did not change. She was still shockingly beautiful, untainted by the mundane world. Xiaochen silently scattered the light in his right eye. He was already certain that the other party had not made a move. That earlier moment was when he was at his weakest. The other party did not make a move. After catching his breath, he would no longer be that easy to deal with. Facing the heavenly profound holy lady's question, Xiaochen answered honestly, "From the first time I saw you, I found it strange. You are clearly extremely beautiful, but why do I still feel fear, not daring to approach you? Earlier, when you mentioned the heartbreak sword, I suddenly understood. You have no expression, no smile, no tears, no pain, no frustration. This is because you are a heartless person in the first place." The heavenly profound holy lady remained silent for a long time. It looked like Xiaochen was right. However, even though her greatest secret had been discovered, there was still no change in her expression. It had to be said that it was truly chilling. Could a heartless person still be considered human? Clearly not. She was neither human nor ghost. In that case, there was an answer to Xiaochen's previous question. A ghost immortal. The heavenly profound holy lady had indeed become a ghost immortal back then. Furthermore, she had been a bona fide ghost immortal. Thinking that this woman could not attack anyone, Xiaochen guessed a possibility. This woman before him might just be a remnant thought of the heavenly profound holy lady. When the true heavenly profound holy lady became a ghost immortal, she left the Kunlun realm. Whoosh! Xiaochen stretched out his hand, and the coffin landed beside the other party. Then, he said, "I already did as I promised and helped you guard the coffin. Now, it is time for you to fulfill your promise." The heavenly profound holy lady glanced at the coffin and raised her head. "There's no rush. Promise me one last thing, and I will satisfy all your requests." Chapter 1451. Xiaochen frowned slightly and asked softly, "What request?" "Help me open this coffin. I want to see something inside," the heavenly profound holy lady said calmly, surprising Xiaochen. The moment the heavenly profound holy lady said that, Xiaochen immediately raised his guard. Tear off the immortal sealing talisman. The two immortal venerates wanted to tear off this immortal sealing talisman. Xiaochen had put in a lot of effort to stop them. Now, the heavenly profound holy lady actually wanted him to tear off the immortal sealing talisman. Xiaochen felt flabbergasted. He said in a bad mood, "Heavenly profound holy lady, are you playing with me? Do you know how much effort I put in to prevent the two immortal venerates from succeeding? To think that you are saying this now. If the heavenly profound holy lady wanted to see what was in the coffin, then she should not have asked him to stop the two immortal venerates. After the two immortal venerates tore off the immortal sealing talisman, she could just watch from the side. Why come up with such a clumsy excuse? There was no need. Do you think that a heartless person would have the heart to lie to you? The heavenly profound holy lady's expression remained calm, not showing any fluctuations, extremely calm. When Xiao Chen heard this, he was stunned. This was like a wake-up call. This sentence was better than any explanation. Nearly the instant the heavenly profound holy lady said this, she managed to convince Xiao Chen. Not many people in the world could understand the sorrow in her words. No matter how strong a heartless person was, it was a kind of sorrow. All right, I promise you. Logically speaking, he absolutely could not agree to this request. However, along the way, no matter how Xiao Chen changed, his heart had never changed. There was always a naivety and sentimentality in the depths of his heart. When it came to matters of time, if one always used reason to decide, being meticulous and cautious, how different would a person be from a machine? This time, Xiao Chen was willing to believe the heavenly profound holy lady. Even if he got cheated, he would not regret it. The immortal sealing talisman was not easy to tear off. However, with the heavenly profound holy lady explaining, all Xiao Chen needed to do was listen. As they communicated, Xiao Chen discovered something very strange. The heavenly profound holy lady did not seem to understand the immortal sealing talisman. It was as if the immortal sealing talisman was not personally made by her. She needed to think for a long time when explaining it. Weren't you the one who forged the celestial sealing talisman? Xiao Chen couldn't help but ask. The heavenly profound holy lady remained silent for a long time before saying, "No, I once had a Tao companion. He was the one who helped me seal it." This stunned Xiao Chen for a moment. He had not expected such a ruthless person like the heavenly profound holy lady to have a Tao companion. The pinnacle of the martial Tao was to disperse all of one's cultivation base and turn into an immortal cultivator. In the end, one would become a heartless person. It was hard to imagine that anyone would be willing to fall in love with such a woman. Where is he? He should be dead. The heavenly profound holy lady thought for a while before saying with some uncertainty, "When I scattered all my martial cultivation, he protected me. After he helped me seal the coffin, I do not know his situation." Actually, it was a pointless question. No one could live from the primordial era until now. No one. Of course, a ruthless person like the heavenly profound holy lady was definitely not one of them. After about 7 minutes, the 2 immortal sealing talismans were removed. After hesitating for a while, Xiao Chen finally used some force and opened the coffin. No mysterious phenomenon appeared, allowing Xiao Chen to release his bated breath. A corpse lay quietly in the coffin. The corpse was well preserved, looking the same as when it was alive. It had not rotted or festered, and there was no strange smell. The corpse looked no different from the heavenly profound holy lady beside Xiao Chen, just older. The corpse had a head full of white hair, and the crow's feet at the corners of its eyes were obvious. There were also some faint wrinkles on its forehead. The corpse's eyes were closed, looking like a woman sleeping peacefully. She clutched a painting tightly in her hand. When Xiao Chen saw the painting in the corpse's hand, his first instinct told him that this was the painting that the heavenly profound holy lady wanted to see. The corpse had been dead for more than 1,000,000 years, but she was still clutching it tightly. Clearly, this item was extremely important. Xiao Chen could not help feeling curious about what kind of painting it was for it to have such charm. "Is it this thing?" The heavenly profound holy lady nodded slightly and said, "Take it out. I just need to take a look." Xiao Chen did as he was told. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the painting, carefully applying some force. In the end, he discovered that the corpse was clutching it somewhat tightly, so he could not help using more force. Naturally, a dead person could not compete with Xiao Chen in strength. With just a little more force, the painting struggled free. Whoosh! However, just at this moment, something strange happened. The corpse's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. A cold light shot out from the corpse's eyes and encased Xiao Chen. When the cold qi entered Xiao Chen's body, it immediately froze. Even though the corpse had been dead for more than 1,000,000 years, the absolute sharpness of this gaze still made one not dare to block it, making one's heart tremble. After opening the coffin for so long, nothing had happened. It was hard not to let down one's guard. However, when the female corpse suddenly opened her eyes while Xiaochen was holding the painting, she would have been frightened to death. What was even more horrifying was yet to come. The instant the female corpse opened her eyes, she soared into the air and tried to grab Xiaochen's neck with one hand. An overwhelming killing chi surged over. In his despair, Xiaochen's intense desire to live allowed him to break through the suppression of the female corpse's aura and fall back. In the nick of time, Xiaochen managed to avoid this fatal blow. Just as the female corpse was about to make a move, Xiaochen's eyes lit up. Just as the female corpse was about to make a move, the heavenly profound holy lady suddenly appeared and placed a finger on the female corpse's forehead. Bang! The female corpse turned into countless specks of dust and scattered. The moment the female corpse shattered, a strong gust of wind blew, and the scroll was unfurled. The startled Xiaochen on the throne glanced at it and could not shift his gaze away. There was a bright moon hanging high on the exquisite paper. The painter had used his profound skills to paint the moon in a distant and elegant manner. The entire painting was bathed in gentle moonlight, giving it a sense of beauty. However, when the moonlight landed on the ground, the scene suddenly changed. The pale white moonlight looked like frost covering the courtyard. The osmanthus tree in the courtyard stood amidst the white frost. The heavenly profound holy lady held her sword and stood upright. The heavenly profound holy lady in the painting had an unparalleled beauty and a pure air. She looked valiant and valiant. As she gazed at the moonlight, she revealed an indescribable sorrow. It was this sorrow that dyed the gentle moonlight on the ground pale, making it as cold as frost. There were words in the painting: moonlight like frost, flowing water hurts. Beauty ages quickly, where to seek immortality? The distant moonlight filled the courtyard. It was like cold frost, exuding a faint sense of sorrow. Who could endure this sorrowful scene? Only that gentle and resilient woman could endure it. However, time was like water. Once it passed, it would not return. The scars of time would eventually land on this face. Actually, even flowing water could not block this boundless sorrow. As one looked at the bright moon in the night sky, one could only ask one question: where to seek immortality? Xiaochen instantly understood the state in the painting. He understood the sorrow and helplessness hidden in the poem. He stretched out his hand, and the painting slowly floated back into Xiaochen's hand. Xiaochen looked at the person in the painting and then at the heartless heavenly profound holy lady before him. It had to be said that this made him sigh. The person in the painting still had sorrow and helplessness. However, the person before him did not have anything. Was he the one who drew this painting? Xiaochen asked as he raised his head and looked at the heavenly profound holy lady as he held the painting with both hands. Naturally, he was referring to her former Tao companion. After remaining silent for a long time, the heavenly profound holy lady, who seemed to have freed herself, nodded slightly. That's right. He drew it. It is also the thing that I am most reluctant to part with in this life. After waiting for 1,000,000 years, I left behind a remnant thought so that I could see this painting once more. I really like this painting. In that case, keep it. Just help me take care of it. Now, I can fulfill my promise to you. There's no rush. Xiaochen slowly rolled up the painting. Then, he took out a mirror box from the universe ring and carefully put it away. The heavenly profound holy lady felt confused. She did not know why Xiaochen, who had been very anxious, suddenly became so slow. Chapter 1452. Let me ask you something. After Xiaochen tidied up everything, he looked at the heavenly profound holy lady and asked, "Where is your true body?" The heavenly profound holy lady was somewhat surprised that Xiaochen would ask such a question. She shook her head and replied, "I don't know. I am just a strand of remnant thought. After my true body became a ghost immortal, I left this abandoned land." "How did you leave?" "I'm not sure. I don't know anything after she left. When Xiao Chen heard that, he could not help feeling suspicious. Since that was the case, who in the world could be sure that the heavenly profound holy lady had become a ghost immortal? It was just a legend. However, how could the people of the Penglai Sea spend so many years preparing for an imaginary legend? There were even 2 immortal sovereigns who came, sacrificing so many experts along the way. It was a bit strange. Someone must have provided concrete information that proved the existence of ghost immortals in the world. That was why these people from the Penglai Sea went crazy. Who could this person be? Could he have seen the true body of the heavenly profound holy lady after she became a ghost immortal and wanted to use the Penglai Sea's people to scout ahead? As for the ghost immortal cultivation method, after Xiao Chen gained a deeper understanding of the heavenly profound holy lady, he knew that aside from her, there would not be a second person in the world who could cultivate to become a ghost immortal. No one was as beautiful as she was, and no one was as cruel to herself as she was, to the point where she didn't even want her heart. Even if they knew how she became a ghost immortal, no one would be able to do it. Let's fulfill our promise. Give me the reincarnation arts. Xiao Chen didn't think too much about it and stated the main purpose of this trip. The heavenly profound holy lady stretched out her hand, and a scene appeared in front of the 2. The scene showed a group of people in Zodiac Hall doing their best to break the restrictions. On the stone platform in the center of the restriction, there was an ancient black book with the word reincarnation written in ancient characters. The Sun Palace's palace master, Chu Tian, looked at the cycle art on the stone platform with anticipation. He wanted to immediately charge over and take it away. However, he was still rational. No matter how close he was, he had to break through the restrictions first before he could take it. The restrictions of the Mirage Immortal Palace were no small matter. It looked like there was nothing there. But in reality, there were 3 formations in one step, and there were formations within formations. The heavenly profound holy lady gently tapped her temple with her finger and closed her eyes for a moment. Xiao. The reincarnation technique on the stone platform suddenly disappeared, right under Chu Tian's nose, mysteriously disappearing. What's going on? Why did the reincarnation arts disappear? Chu Tian cried out in shock. This was truly unimaginable. He had never heard of such a strange thing before. In the scene, he was both shocked and furious, extremely manic, and had completely lost his poise. However, this was also reasonable. Anyone who had experienced such a strange thing would be like this. When the image disappeared, the black reincarnation art appeared in front of Xiao Chen. He stretched out his hand and grasped it tightly. Xiao Chen felt like he was dreaming. This was a little too easy. Was it really the reincarnation arts? However, the item in his hand was incredibly heavy. Its ancient aura could not be faked. Flipping open the cover, Xiao Chen's expression was solemn as he carefully examined it. The reincarnation art was of great importance, and he could not afford to be careless. He did not have the time to wait for the Mirage Immortal Palace to appear again. After a while, Xiao Chen finally verified the item in his hand. It was indeed the genuine reincarnation arts. It could not be faked. The heavenly profound holy lady did not lie to him. In the end, she had fulfilled her promise. A heartless person would not lie. Many thanks, Xiao Chen said solemnly as he put away the reincarnation arts. Unexpectedly, he could obtain the reincarnation arts in such an easy manner. It would be great if he could avoid a fight with the Sun Palace's palace master. There's no need to be so polite. This is just a part of the promise. The universe origin Tao fruit that I promised you is the true reward. The heavenly profound holy lady did not show any joy or sorrow, appearing incredibly calm. Another scene appeared in front. That was a herb garden in the Mirage Immortal Palace. The garden was filled with spirit herbs and all sorts of strong profound beasts. There were venomous snakes, venomous bees, and strange birds hiding among them. An old man in hempen robes sneaked into the herb garden, heading for a spirit fruit in the depths of the herb garden. It was Mu Yong. Xiao Chen recognized this person with one glance. Unexpectedly, Mu Yong managed to reach this place. This spirit fruit looked ordinary. Its color was not beautiful, and it did not give off a refreshing feeling that made one's eyes light up. With just one glance, one would ignore it, unable to look at it at all. However, such a spirit fruit looked exactly the same as the legendary universe origin fruit. Only when one focused and squinted would one discover a hard-to-look golden light concentrated in the uneven surface of the spirit fruit. If one stared at it for about 7 or 8 minutes, the image of this fruit in one's mind would suddenly turn golden, like an immortal lord sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. The profoundness of this was indescribable. I found the seed of this spirit fruit in an immortal Tao remnant back then. It only matured after more than 1,000,000 years. Even I have not eaten it before. Only such an immortal fruit is worthy of all the help you have given me. In the heavenly profound holy lady's opinion, the reincarnation arts were useless. The universe origin fruit was more practical as a reward. The universe origin fruit was also known as the universe origin Tao fruit. Legend had it that eating it could increase one's cultivation by 1,000 years, allowing one to comprehend the Tao instantly. Even if it was not as heaven-defying as the legend said, it was definitely extraordinary. Otherwise, immortals would not fight over it. At this moment, the hemp-robed old man carefully approached the universe origin fruit. If one looked carefully, one would discover that his forehead was pitch black, and his complexion was very poor. Only a pair of eyes stared at the universe origin fruit, flickering with light. The old man was already severely poisoned. If he was not careful, he would die immediately. You know this person? The heavenly profound holy lady asked. Xiao Qin nodded and replied, we came in together. He is dying. He is poisoned by at least 7 kinds of strange poisons. If he takes another 3 steps, he will definitely die. Is there any way to save him? Xiao Qin asked. After all, they had met once before. He was not a cold-hearted person. You want to save him? There is no way to save him. One should know one's limits. Greed blinded one's eyes. Death is self-inflicted. Right after the heavenly profound holy lady spoke, the hemp-robed old man stumbled and stumbled, falling to the ground. No, I still have not obtained the universe origin fruit. I have not become a prime. I cannot die. As the hemp-robed old man roared in dissatisfaction, a huge snake flicked its tongue and slowly slithered over. Then, it opened its mouth and swallowed him. The scene disappeared, and the universe origin fruit appeared out of nowhere. Like the reincarnation arts, it miraculously appeared on this blood lake. Even though Xiao Qin had seen many deaths, he was still somewhat shocked. The hemp-robed old man was very capable, yet he died just like that. After waiting bitterly for several decades, the Mirage Immortal Palace finally arrived. However, the result was like this. Xiao Qin withdrew the universe origin fruit into his hand. He found it somewhat heavy and somewhat surprised. Unexpectedly, this immortal fruit ended up in his hands. Before coming here, he had never thought that with the reincarnation arts, his trip to the Immortal Palace would be a success. You should quickly treat your injuries as well. If this drags on, it will not be something that can be done in a short time, the heavenly profound holy lady said. Xiao Qin put away the universe origin fruit and looked at the heavenly profound holy lady. What about you? Me? The heavenly profound holy lady shook her head and said, I am just a strand of lingering thought. Now that my thoughts are clear, there is no need for me to exist or not. I just need to quietly accompany this immortal palace. This stunned Xiao Qin, and he felt somewhat bitter. In the end, this was a heartless person. That painting that made him, an outsider, sad was just a way for her to clear her thoughts. Suddenly, Xiao Qin thought of something. His expression changed slightly, and he stopped thinking about treating his injuries. There should be a group of scarlet-clad experts in the Mirage Immortal Palace. Can you help me take a look and see where this group of people is? Xiao Qin nearly forgot that there was still this group of strange factions worth paying attention to. The blood-clad sect was mysterious in the first place. After they entered the immortal palace, their movements became extremely strange. Furthermore, the strangest thing was that the restriction that immortal Venerate Mingyu left in the palace did not block this group of people. Back then, Xiaoqin could not resist taking the risk to pass through the restriction because of this doubt. Although the heavenly profound holy lady could not attack in this immortal palace, she clearly still had some tricks up her sleeve. It would be too much of a pity not to use them. Chapter 1453. The heavenly profound holy lady did not reject Xiaoqian's request. She only said that she needed some time. It's fine. I'll wait. Xiaoqian closed his eyes and regulated his breathing, quietly waiting for the heavenly profound holy lady. After about 7 minutes, the heavenly profound holy lady said, I found it. Xiaoqian tapped the air, and a scene appeared. A group of scarlet-clad people broke the restrictions and snatched a resplendent pearl. The group revealed smiles on their faces, feeling wild joy. What is this? After all, the scene was not the real thing. When Xiaoqian opened his eyes, he did not recognize that resplendent pearl. This is a puppet pearl. It is not something from the martial epoch but a magic treasure from the immortal epoch. It is used to control huge puppets, ancient beasts, deep-sea berserk sharks, and other extraordinarily huge puppets. The heavenly profound holy lady explained to Xiaoqian in detail. Xiaoqian felt excited. It was specially used to control huge puppets. He seemed to think of something in an instant, but he could not figure it out. I can take it back. Xiaoqian kept feeling that the blood-clad sect was plotting something. If the other party really obtained this puppet pearl, it would lead to a huge problem in the future. No, he already placed it in his spatial ring. I can only send over the treasures with the restrictions that are not completely broken. There are still many good things in the ethereal immortal palace. If you need them, I can give them to you. There's no need. Xiaoqian rejected the heavenly profound holy lady without much consideration. He always followed the principle of going too far was as bad as not going far enough. If he took too many things that did not belong to him, he might trigger some bad karma. Furthermore, he already obtained the cycle arts that he wanted the most and the incredibly precious universe origin fruit. There was no need to be greedy. It was not a bad thing to give more opportunities to the later generations. The most important thing was to figure out what this group of blood-clad sect people were planning. You can't be thinking of snatching it, right? In your current state, you probably can't even protect yourself. You should recuperate from your injuries. That's right. The heavenly profound holy lady looked up at the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram in the air and entered deep thought. Where did you learn this Taiji yin-yang flame diagram? This is my first time seeing someone merge the yin and yang attributes so naturally. Xiaoqian pondered for a moment. Naturally, he couldn't expose what happened on Earth, so he answered, I learned it by myself. Not bad, you're much stronger than I was back then. However, you're still lacking a cultivation technique. Otherwise, it would be difficult for your yin-yang flame diagram to become truly strong. Since you created it yourself, you need to have a complete set of martial techniques and cultivation techniques. Xiaoqian was stunned when he heard this. He thought about it carefully and felt that it made sense. Xiaoqian's Taiji Dao indeed lacked a cultivation technique. However, creating a cultivation technique was too difficult for Xiaoqian. He couldn't do it for now. Since they are both yin-yang flames, you can actually use the energy of the void flower and the extreme yang true flame. If you absorb it into your yin-yang flame diagram, you can eliminate the threat of the extreme yang true fire and strengthen your yin-yang flame diagram. The heavenly profound holy lady continued after observing for a while. Xiaoqian's eyes lit up. Why didn't he think of it? Homologous. This was completely feasible. In order to maintain a balance, the void flower and the extreme yang true fire had to have the same amount of energy. After absorbing all of it, the yin-yang flame diagram would be able to maintain its balance. I'll teach you how to do it. The heavenly profound holy lady gave Xiaoqian pointers on how to use the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram to absorb the void flower and the extreme yang true fire. Xiao Chen's comprehension ability was startling in the first place. With a few words, he understood the principle. After trying it out, he succeeded. The 10,000 flower petals melted into the ground like snowflakes, silently. The extreme Yin true flame and the extreme Yang true flame strengthened bit by bit. Xiao Chen could not help feeling joy in his heart. Flames were split into 9 grades. His primal chaos level heavenly snow divine flame was rank 3, while the extreme Yin true flame and the extreme Yang true flame were rank 6. If Xiao Chen continued to absorb the 10,000 void flowers and the extreme Yang true flame, it should not be difficult for his flame to rise to rank 7. One should not underestimate just an increase of 1 grade. The extreme Yang true flame and the extreme Yin true flame were existences second only to primal chaos level flames in the first place. After raising them to rank 6, they would be extremely difficult to raise. Such an opportunity could be said to be a fortuitous encounter that could not be sought. I need you to help me keep an eye on this group of blood-clad sex people. After we go out, I want to teleport to the same place as them. As Xiao Chen looked at the scene, a cold light flashed in his eyes at the ecstatic blood-clad sex people. Once, when Elder Qin underwent his tribulation, a group of blood-clad sex people had come to cause trouble. Their auras were very similar to this. If Xiao Chen was right, it was the blood-clad sex doing. Now that he ran into this group of people, he naturally could not let them off. If possible, he had to obtain the puppet pearl by force as well. Sure, that is not a problem, the heavenly profound holy lady agreed straightforwardly. To her, this was an incredibly small request. A month's time was neither long nor short. To the people of the Mirage Immortal Palace, they had to cherish every moment, as they could remain here for only 1 month. They absolutely could not waste it. As for Xiao Chen, he no longer had any desires. He had obtained the cycle arts and an additional universe origin fruit, a bountiful harvest. Xiao Chen only hoped that 1 month would pass quickly so that he could find the blood-clad sex people. A total of 9 people from the blood-clad sect came on this trip, 1 vice sect master and 9 elders. The vice sect master was a 9th heaven martial emperor. His scarlet clothes gave off a strange light. Upon closer inspection, the blood on his clothes seemed to flow. At this moment, the 9 people gathered together. The vice sect master, Ken Minghua, held the puppet pearl in his hand and revealed a satisfied smile. Sect Master Can, now that we have the puppet pearl, the sect master's mission is complete. Can we go our separate ways and seek out fortuitous encounters? A few of the elders of the sect master's headquarters asked with a greedy look in their eyes. Ken Minghua put away the puppet pearl and shook his head. We can't. We have to personally hand the puppet pearl to the sect master to complete the mission. Right now, we are only halfway done. We cannot be careless. This person was clearly extremely cautious. Caution was the parent of safety. They still had to maintain sufficient martial prowess to escort the puppet pearl back. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just at this moment, 2 figures suddenly appeared above the 9 people. The expressions of Ken Minghua and the others changed slightly. When they heard the sound, they reacted extremely quickly. However, when Ken Minghua clearly saw who it was, he started laughing. The expressions of the other elders of the sect master's headquarters also relaxed significantly. How did the 2 immortal venerates end up in such sorry states? To think that their physical bodies were destroyed. The newcomers were Immortal Venerate Tian Yi and Immortal Venerate Mingyu, who had their physical bodies destroyed. At this moment, their nascent souls appeared before this group of people with their life magic treasures. When Immortal Venerate Tian Yi saw Ken Minghua's mockery, he said coldly, "Cut the crap. Quickly bring your people and follow me to the Immortal Palace's 9th floor to kill the Shadowless Saber Sovereign." The Shadowless Saber Sovereign? No wonder the 2 of you ended up in such sorry states. It turns out that you ran into such a demonic genius. However, why should I help you 2 to offend such a killing god? With the puppet pearl in hand, Ken Minghua only needed to wait here for 1 month before he could go out and report. There was no need for him to take the risk. He is already severely injured. Killing him will be as easy as killing a dog. You can have all the treasures on him, and the two of us will owe you a favor. Why not? Immortal Venerate Mingyu said, tempting Ken Minghua with benefits. Immortal Venerate Tianyi said, don't forget, if we had not let you in, how could you have obtained the puppet pearl so easily? Furthermore, the blood-clad sect and my Penglai Si both respect the treasure master. So what if you help me once? Ken Minghua showed a hesitant expression, somewhat persuaded. Is he really injured? Do you think he will have a good end after putting us in such a sorry state? Immortal Venerate Tianyi countered. With a definite answer, Ken Minghua no longer hesitated. He nodded and said, very well, I'll help you this time. However, all the treasures on the Shadowless Saber Sovereign's body will belong to me. Xiao Chen, who was anxiously treating his injuries, could not imagine that the master behind the Penglai Si and the blood-clad sect was the same person. The blood-clad sect experts, who had been preparing to deal with Xiao Chen after leaving, were now rushing over. Chapter 1454. Above the blood lake, Xiao Chen closed his eyes and treated his injuries. At the same time, he circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation to recover his magic energy. The magic energy source in Xiao Chen's Sea of Consciousness slowly recovered. After the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation reached the 9th layer, Xiao Chen's magic energy recovered very quickly. In merely 1 hour, Xiao Chen had already recovered to a fifth of his peak, much faster than before. As for the physical injuries, they were even easier to recover from. The only thing he needed to pay attention to was his heart. Xiao Chen had already injured his heart once before. Then, he used the heartbreaking saber. The injuries on top of the injuries were much more severe than the injuries to the other internal organs. Once Xiao Chen used too much force, his heart would ache endlessly, spreading throughout his entire body. In battle, this would directly affect his movements. Although this injury was not fatal, it was the most problematic. Hence, it was best not to use the heartbreaking saber technique's flawless saber technique unless he had no other choice. Just as Xiao Chen anxiously recovered from his injuries, the Heavenly Profound Holy Lady suddenly said, Shadowless Saber Sovereign, the group of scarlet-clad people you told me to keep an eye on are rushing over here. Whoosh! Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly, and he suddenly opened his eyes. How can it be like this? How did they know? After being stunned for a while, Xiao Chen reacted. It had to be those two immortal venerates. He had guessed long ago that the Penglai Si's people had a secret connection with the blood-clad sect. Now, it looked like it was true. If not for these two people informing on him, he would not have been exposed. Those two immortal venerates probably thought that the extreme young true flame would blast him to pieces. In the end, they did not hear the expected explosion. Only then did they startle to their senses and seek help from the blood-clad sect. In an instant, Xiao Chen figured out the truth of the matter. The Heavenly Profound Holy Lady pointed in the air, and a fruit appeared out of nowhere. This is the heart-nourishing fruit. It has a miraculous effect on healing injuries to the heart. Why didn't you give it to me earlier? What was the point of giving it to Xiao Chen now? No matter how good the holy herb was, it could not instantly heal his injuries. The Heavenly Profound Holy Lady said calmly, you were the one who said that you did not need anything else. How can you blame me? Never mind, this is not the time to dwell on this. Xiao Chen quickly consumed the heart-nourishing fruit. As the medicinal liquid entered his body, it turned into a gentle energy that wrapped around his heart. The pain from the wound immediately lessened, allowing Xiao Chen to heave a sigh of relief. There were a total of 9 people in the blood cloth sect. Other than the vice sect leader, who was a level 9 Heavens Emperor Wu, the other 9 elders were at least at the greater celestial Emperor Wu. Even at his peak, Xiao Chen had to be careful when facing such a group of people. If he wanted to subdue them, he would have to use the God's Eye of Lightning. However, he had only recovered 1/5 of his magic power, so he couldn't use the God's Eye of Lightning at all. Should they retreat? Looking at the yin-yang flame diagram in midair, which was still absorbing the void flower and the extreme yang true flame, Xiao Chen had an idea. Dong dong dong. Footsteps resounded. The blood-clad sect's vice-sect master, Ken Minghua, quickly arrived with a group of blood-clad sect elders. Bloodcloth sect. Shao Chen, who was seated on the throne, opened his eyes, feeling somewhat weak and bewildered. When Ken Minghua saw this scene, he guffawed. It looks like the two immortal venerates did not lie to me. Shadowless Saber Sovereign, you are indeed here. There was one more thing that Ken Minghua did not say. Indeed, he was severely injured and extremely weak. Kill him. Ken Minghua did not waste any time on nonsense. With a command, the 8 elders soared into the air and surrounded Shao Chen, who was on the blood lake. Ken Minghua, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Although this shadowless saber sovereign is injured, your group of elders will not be able to restrain him in a short time. You have to personally make a move, Immortal Venerate Mingyu, who was following from behind, said to Ken Minghua when he saw that the coffin was still there. Ken Minghua smiled coldly in his heart. Of course, this old man knows that a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. The counterattack before death cannot be underestimated. The more this is the case, the more cautious I have to be. I absolutely cannot take risks easily. I just have to take advantage at the end. Immortal Venerable Tian Yi's nascent soul was in the ancient copper lamp, looking at the yin-yang flame diagram in the air with a pensive look. No wonder he didn't die from the explosion. It turned out that this fellow still had such a method to hold back all the void flowers. When that shadowless saber sovereign was about to die, he would definitely make the 10,000 flowers fall and die together with this group of people. He had to think of a way to trick Ken Minghua in and make both sides suffer. Sitting on the throne above the blood lake, Shao Chen was clearly no match for Shao Chen. He could only hide and flee in all directions in a sorry state. Furthermore, it was getting slower and slower. It looked like it would not be able to hold on for much longer. Immortal Venerate Tian Yi had not thought of a plan yet. He could not help but feel slightly anxious. Given the other party's character, he would definitely take the divine coffin away in the end. Old man Tianyi, what exactly are you and the shadowless saber sovereign fighting over for you to fight so intensely? Seeing that victory was within sight, Ken Minghua's eyes swiveled as he asked with a smile. Immortal Venerate Tian Yi cursed in his heart. I just knew that you would burn the bridge after crossing it. However, it just so happened that he could make use of this opportunity to lure him over. Immortal Venerable Tian Yi feigned silence, not saying a word. Hee, old man Tianyi, even if you don't say it, I can guess a thing or two. The coffin on the blood lake is the heavenly profound holy lady's coffin, right? Ken Minghua's eyes were very sharp. He had long discovered the sage coffin's existence. After probing it a little, he confirmed his guess. No, that sage coffin belongs to my Penglai Si. Ken Minghua, don't even think about snatching it away. Immortal Paragon Tian Yi said angrily. The ancient lamp shook continuously, showing his anger. Ken Minghua laughed loudly, don't worry, I won't snatch it from you. I'll just take a look and leave. Although Ken Minghua said that he would take a look, he had no intention of entering the blood lake. Immortal Venerate Tian Yi could not help feeling anxious. Is that so? Then I'll give you a ride. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from behind them. Ken Minghua's expression changed drastically, and he quickly turned around to defend. His aura instantly soared to its peak. The 7 sabers merged into one, and 10 spots of saber energy burst forth. The resplendent saber light was extremely piercing in the dark passageway. Although Ken Minghua reacted very quickly, the force of this saber strike was too strong, directly knocking him back. Ken Minghua vomited a mouthful of blood and landed in the blood lake, his complexion somewhat pale. The scarlet light on Ken Minghua's scarlet clothes flourished, looking extremely strange. Shadowless Saber Sovereign, so this is your true body. Ken Minghua wiped away the blood at a corner of his lips. However, he did not show much surprise. He smiled coldly and said, do you think that I did not guard against you? It would have been fine if you had not shown yourself. Since you showed yourself, you can forget about leaving. Xiaochen could not be bothered with Ken Minghua. With a thought, the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram above the blood lake instantly crumbled. Thousands of flowers fell. Before Ken Minghua could understand what was going on, the extreme yang true flame exploded in an instant. The extreme yang true fire exploded in an instant. Fiery light soared into the sky, covering the entire blood lake in an instant. The instant the flame exploded, Xiaochen's true body grabbed the ancient lamp that immortal venerate Tian Yi's Yuanying was in and quickly retreated. The shock wave from the explosion spread out. Everywhere it passed, all the stone pillars instantly shattered, silently turning into nothing. Rumble. The 9th floor of the ethereal immortal palace directly crumbled. Closely following that, the 8th floor, the 7th floor, and all the way up were affected. If not for the protection of the restrictions, this intense explosion would have been sufficient to destroy the entire ethereal immortal palace. Xiaochen knew that the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram had already absorbed half of the energy of the void flower and the extreme yang true flame. The might of the explosion was not enough to kill Ken Minghua. Perhaps a few of the blood-clad sect elders would still be alive. Xiaochen was not in a good state either. This was not the time to seek trouble with this group of people. Shadowless Saber Sovereign, quickly let go of me. Otherwise, this old man's Yuanying will explode and die with you. The ancient lamp that Xiaochen firmly grabbed shook continuously, trying to struggle free. Xiaochen already knew that this immortal venerate Tian Yi was a person who appeared tough on the outside but was cowardly on the inside. He appeared tough on the surface but was afraid of death in his heart. Xiaochen simply ignored Ken Minghua. No matter how Ken Minghua called out, he did not let go. It was rare for Xiaochen to capture an immortal venerate's Yuanying. This was a good opportunity to search his soul and uncover all the secrets of the Penglai Sea. Xiaochen's only regret was that he could not take advantage of this opportunity to capture the blood-clad sect's vice sect master as well. Chapter 1455. Many thanks. After addressing Xiaochen as fellow Taoist, immortal venerate Tian Yi's Yuanying slowly faded away until it completely vanished. Xiaochen could not help feeling shocked. To think that the low-key and mysterious treasure master had such incredible means. This was simply too shocking. Alright, I'm not willing to use the second method either. As Xiaochen dodged the falling rocks and restrictions, his spiritual sense picked up countless figures rushing over. Immortal venerate Tian Yi said slowly, when a person is about to die, his words are kind. What is he drawing for? This is truly incomprehensible. After trying many times, immortal venerate Tian Yi finally gave up. A small, illusory figure appeared in the ancient lamp. That was an immortal cultivator's Yuanying. Immortal venerate Tian Yi smiled in rage. Since I'm going to die anyway, why should I let you off easy? Shadowless Saber Sovereign, you are too naive. A Yuanying was a very weak existence. The longer it existed, the weaker it became. The commotion must have been too great, startling all the treasure seekers in the entire ethereal immortal palace. Furthermore, Xiaochen learned that the master of the blood-clad sect was also the heavenly starry ocean's treasure master. The 9th floor of the ethereal immortal palace was destroyed, turning the entire ethereal immortal palace into chaos. However, the heavenly profound holy lady remained calm, her expression not changing at all. As for the eternal heavenly sword school's Xie Changtian, immortal venerate Yun Chen had been watching over him. Hence, immortal venerate Tian Yi did not know much. He only knew that there was indeed such a person living in the Penglai Sea. As Xiaochen ran, he still had to control the ancient lamp, multitasking. He had no time to chat at all. Is there a safer, more remote place in the ethereal immortal palace that others cannot easily find? Yuanying. Furthermore, it's a blue dragon Yuanying. That's impossible. How can you dual cultivate immortal cultivation and martial cultivation? Even the heavenly profound holy lady can only cultivate immortal cultivation after scattering her cultivation. There are many things that you do not know. Don't worry about how I can cultivate immortal cultivation. All you need to know is that if I want to, I can swallow your Yuanying right now. If I know everything about you, your death will be even more miserable. Time is of the essence. I need to comprehend the cycle arts quickly and cultivate the state of cycle. Only by comprehending the complete Saber Tao would he be able to contend against supremes and even surpass them. Xiaochen casually looked around. Aside from the cleanliness of the bedroom, it was very different from a regular girl's room. Lying down in the air, the throne appeared. Xiaochen had a feeling that before long, this person would no longer be able to endure. When Xiaochen truly became high profile, the entire oceanic world would experience a huge change. It might even affect the entire Kunlun realm. Immortal Exalt Tian-Yi said furiously as he looked at Xiaochen. There was a trace of deep fear in his tone. It's too late. I've already given you many chances. Now, it's time for you to make another choice. Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi remained silent for a long time before saying helplessly, I choose the first option. With Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi taking the initiative to cooperate, Xiaochen did not encounter any difficulties in searching the soul for the first time. 1 hour later, Xiaochen understood everything about the Penglai Sea and the karma of this trip. The demonic calamity, Emperor Forsaken, and now there was a treasure lord. Despite Xiaochen's strength, he still felt tremendous pressure. Xiaochen casually tossed the ancient lamp aside and leaned back. The cycle throne attached to his clothes descended and caught Xiaochen. The heavenly profound holy lady thought for a while before saying, Come with me. This scene was simply too shocking, completely surpassing Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi's imagination and understanding. The blood-clad sect and the Penglai Sea were the treasure lord's pawns. He wanted the blood-clad sect to obtain the puppet pearl. In that case, what did the immortal cultivators want to obtain by opening the coffin? Xiaochen interrupted, not willing to listen to Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi's nonsense. Xiaochen stretched out his hand and played with it for a while. Then, he placed it in his universe ring. Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi's life magic treasure must be extraordinary. Furthermore, this was only what Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi knew. It was likely just the tip of the iceberg. Aside from that painting, there was nothing else in the coffin. The answer was obvious. If not for Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi having already cultivated the immortal cultivation Tao to the peak, reaching the void refinement realm, it would have been impossible for the coffin to exist for so long. Why could Xiaochen dual cultivate immortal cultivation and martial cultivation? The answer lay in the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. The Purple Thunder Divine Incantation was either left behind by the Qing Emperor or the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. Treasure Lord. Xiaochen said calmly, Don't worry. I have never been a bloodthirsty person. I will not implicate others in my personal grudges. This was my previous bedroom. Beside it is my meditation room. You can rest there. After obtaining everything that he wanted, Xiaochen did not humiliate or make things difficult for Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi. Instead, he let Tian-Yi choose to commit suicide, a method of suicide. Only after a long time did Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi wake up from the fact that Xiaochen could cultivate immortal cultivation. Xiaochen said calmly, Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi, do you still not have the resolution to die? Don't harbor any delusions about me. You have already forced our relationship to the point where only one of us can live. After pushing open a door, Xiaochen entered. Now, he finally had time to deal with Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi. Clang! The ancient lamp fell to the ground, giving off a loud sound. You can commit suicide. If it were during the immortal epoch, one could become a loose immortal after committing suicide. Now, one was nothing. Many thanks, fellow Taoist. The heavenly profound holy lady appeared unpredictably, appearing beside Xiaochen once again. Upon seeing Xiaochen's blue dragon Yuanying, Immortal Venerate Tian-Yi felt incredibly horrified. The ancient lamp shook intensely, revealing his extreme horror. The latter was more likely. However, it did not matter. The ancient lamp flew out the door with a whoosh. Then, it landed on the ground with a clang. Now, I'll give you two choices. Cooperate a little and let me search your soul. Then, I'll give you a quick death. The second choice is that you do not cooperate, but I can still find out what I want to know. You will die even more miserably. After a while, Xiaochen followed the heavenly profound holy lady to a quiet bedroom. When he opened the window, he could actually see the ghost mountain. This was a pretty good location. In the martial epoch, the martial path reigned supreme. Even when one cultivated the immortal Tao to its peak, one would only be as strong as immortal venerate Tian-yi. To Xiaochen, aside from a supreme magic skill like the divine lightning eye, the immortal Tao did not hold much attraction. What a good plan. Unexpectedly, you are so decisive, easily resolving this calamity. Shadowless Saber Sovereign, what exactly do you want? Everything was linked to this person. It turned out that the treasure master had been controlling the Penglai Sea for more than 1,000 years. Xiaochen did not get angry. With a thought, the blue dragon Yuanying hidden in the depths of the heart of an emperor slowly appeared above his head. When a regular immortal cultivator's physical body was destroyed, they needed to quickly possess another body. Otherwise, they would turn to dust. The ancient lamp felt extremely dissatisfied. It gave off a bright light and crashed around randomly. In the end, it returned to nothing and fell to the ground. However, Xiaochen did not have time to investigate now. The treasure master's matter was still troubling him. On this trip to the Mirage Immortal Palace, aside from getting what he wanted, he had unexpectedly dug out such a big secret. Shadowless Saber Sovereign, if possible, do not make a move on the Penglai Sea. They are all innocent and also a group of pitiful people. Xiaochen sat on the throne and said indifferently, don't waste your efforts. This was once the heavenly profound holy lady's place of meditation. Unless I am willing to open the door, you can forget about leaving in your lifetime. Xiaochen narrowed his eyes, and his spiritual sense turned into a thread that flew towards immortal venerate Tian-yi's Yuanying. Indeed, there is hope. Xiaochen heaved a sigh of relief. With the heavenly profound holy lady, the master of the Mirage Immortal Palace, helping him, the crisis-ridden Mirage Immortal Palace was like entering his own home. He could always turn calamities into blessings. Indeed, there was hope. Xiaochen heaved a sigh of relief. The three immortal venerates all lost to the treasure master. Right now, the Penglai Sea was a pawn of the treasure master. Is that so? Xiaochen muttered to himself, no wonder I felt a familiar aura from your saber formation. It turns out that they are clones created by immortal arts. Had I known earlier. The second way to die was too painful for immortal cultivators. It was equivalent to someone swallowing them alive. No immortal cultivator would be willing to accept such a death. It was too tragic. They might even get swallowed by other immortal cultivators. That was the cruelest and most immoral ending, equivalent to cannibalism. Bang! Chapter 1456. Just as Xiaochen was recuperating, the entire Penglai Immortal Palace descended into chaos, a commotion breaking out everywhere. In the 10,000 fetus blood spring, the blood-clad sect's vice-sect master, Ken Minghua, paled. His scarlet clothes were in tatters from the explosion. His hair was disheveled, looking very miserable. The tattered scarlet clothes squirmed like blood, continuously merging together. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that the scarlet clothes Ken Minghua wore were very different from the scarlet clothes that Xiaochen had seen in the past. The original scarlet clothes gave off demonic qi, making one feel very uncomfortable just by looking at them. However, the demonic qi in Ken Minghua's scarlet clothes was even more withdrawn, not leaking out. If one did not purposely draw it out, one would not notice the demonic qi at all. Clearly, the quality of these scarlet clothes had improved significantly. According to rumor, the blood-clad sect would have different scarlet clothes depending on the rank. Of course, this was just the guess of others. The outside world knew too little about this faction that suddenly rose up in the past few years. Suddenly, Ken Minghua started coughing a few times. Only when he vomited a mouthful of blood did he feel much better. Shadowless Saber Sovereign. Unexpectedly, someone set him up so ruthlessly. In the past few years, the blood-clad sect had been showing off its sharpness and rarely suffered losses. Ken Minghua was very experienced and shrewd. He had never been one to suffer losses. Unexpectedly, he suffered such a huge setback today. Had he known, he would not have believed the words of those two immortal venerates. Fortunately, he didn't lose the puppet pearl. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost it. Just thinking about the consequences made Ken Minghua tremble in fear. That was a treasure that the treasure master wanted. Once he lost it, even the sect master would not be able to protect him. He would suffer a fate worse than death. Footsteps resounded, and Ken Minghua's expression changed slightly. Enduring the pain, he quickly left this place. Soon, the Zodiac Hall's Sun Palace's palace master and the major characters of the other holy lands rushed over. However, they only saw rubble. They could not understand what was going on. There was no aura of a supreme treasure or any natural treasure. The people who caused the chaos had already left long ago. This storm was destined to end without attracting much attention. The people present would not have expected that this storm would be the cause. This gave Xiaoqin the foundation to surpass Prime. In the future, he would be able to turn the tide and save the Kunlun realm. The month was about to pass. Most of the people who had come here had already left. As long as they didn't die in the restriction, they would have gained something, so the trip was not in vain. They might have obtained the secret treasures of the Tianxian sect, the Taoist fate left behind by their predecessors, or other treasures of heaven and earth. There were many people who were disappointed. Sun Palace's palace master Chu Tian was one of them. There was still one more day before Xiaoqin would have to leave the Mirage Immortal Palace. Since he still had not found the cycle arts, he could already declare his failure. After dismissing the people beside him, Chu Tian summoned out a talisman. After the talisman burned up, the image of the cyclic astral lord appeared before him. Star Lord, this subordinate is useless and lost the reincarnation art. The cyclic astral lord seemed to have expected this long ago and was not in a rush. The shadowless saber sovereign snatched it away. No. Chu Tian shook his head and told him about the strange situation that had happened. The reincarnation arts suddenly disappeared in front of him. Chu Tian was nervous, worried that the Star Lord would not believe this reason. Who could have imagined that the cyclic astral lord would say after thinking for a while, "I understand. After you leave, just return to the palace quickly. There is no need to care about this matter anymore." Hearing the cyclic astral lord's answer, Chu Tian was in disbelief. Only when the cyclic astral lord's image vanished did he startle to his senses. Xiaoqin felt relieved of a heavy burden, feeling very relaxed. On the other side, Ken Minghua also contacted the blood-clad sect master at this moment. The identity of the blood-clad sect master had always been mysterious. If someone were present and saw the image of the sect master, they would be greatly startled. No one would have imagined that the true identity of the blood-clad sect master was actually the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's palace master. "Sect master, we already obtained the puppet pearl," Ken Minghua reported respectfully. The Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's palace master revealed a smile and nodded. "Very good. Pay attention to safety. Return the puppet pearl perfectly. The treasure master will reward you greatly. He can even give you a longevity-extending pill." At the mention of the longevity-extending pill, wild joy flashed in Ken Minghua's eyes. However, it soon dimmed. He said, "However, something unexpected happened at the Penglai Sea. The shadowless saber sovereign captured immortal venerate Tian Yi, and immortal venerate Ming Yu's physical body was also destroyed." After hearing about the encounters of the two immortal venerates, the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's palace master said calmly, "It's not a problem. As long as we obtain the puppet pearl, the treasure master's goal is complete. As for the immortal venerates, it was just a matter of convenience." The treasure master did not hold much hope. Ken Minghua was completely at ease when he heard this. In this way, he wouldn't be blamed for this. Inside the cultivation room, Xiaoqin had already recovered from his injuries, returning to his peak state. Just as he was about to leave the ethereal immortal palace, he formally read through the cycle arts. After closing the cycle arts, Xiaoqin could already confirm that this was the true copy. However, it was as the heavenly profound holy lady said, it was indeed just an incomplete copy and not very valuable. Without a doubt, if one cultivated the cycle arts together with the states of the 7 thrones, one could definitely cultivate the state of cycle. However, what would happen after he cultivated the reincarnation state? There was no mention of how to cultivate it or how to use it. In Xiaoqian's opinion, merging the state of cycle was just the beginning. How to use it after that was the most important thing. Xiaoqin could only rely on himself to slowly explore it in the future. Or perhaps, after leaving the abandoned land and entering the true martial great world, he might be able to meet an expert who cultivated the state of cycle. However, no matter what, Xiaoqin was already very satisfied with being able to cultivate the state of cycle. After putting away the cycle arts, Xiaoqin took out the second great harvest of this trip, the universe origin Dao fruit. Speaking of which, this universe origin Dao fruit looked very ordinary. Its surface was bumpy and even somewhat prickly. It was hard to imagine that the legendary immortal fruit would have such an appearance. If one was deceived by its appearance and missed out on this fruit, one would regret it for life. As long as one focused and did not move their gaze, one would discover the profoundness of this fruit after 7 or 8 minutes. A scene of a golden divine venerate sitting cross-legged would appear in one's mind. When this scene appeared, one would be bathed in a profound feeling of ascending to the Tao. The universe origin Tao fruit is truly indescribably wondrous. Xiaoqin looked away in admiration. However, he did not dare to take the risk of eating it. Rumor had it that after consuming this fruit, it could increase one's cultivation by 1,000 years. However, Xiaoqin did not really believe it. That would have been during the immortal epoch. The martial epoch and the immortal epoch were completely different cultivation methods. No one could be sure what the consequences would be. Based on his personal feelings, Xiaoqin was more willing to believe that this fruit had a miraculous effect on the Tao. This was because when that golden divine venerate appeared in Xiaoqian's mind, he clearly felt his saber energy stir. After consuming it, while his cultivation might not increase, his comprehension of the saber Tao would definitely improve. Perhaps if he was not careful, he might even comprehend the complete saber Tao. The universe origin Tao fruit might very well contain a complete Tao. Anyone who consumed it would be able to obtain the Tao. Immortal lords lived forever. To them, 1,000 years of cultivation was just 1,000 years. In eternal life, 1,000 years was just a flick of a finger. 1,000 years of cultivation was not worth fighting for. What they valued was definitely the desire for the Tao. What's wrong? You want to eat it now? The heavenly profound holy lady suddenly asked when she saw Xiaoqin holding the universe origin Tao fruit and staring at it. Xiaoqin smiled and put away the universe origin Tao fruit. He said, "It is too risky. If I fall unconscious after consuming it, I will have to wait several decades before I can leave." That's true. You are still young and in your best years. It is not good to waste it here. I came to inform you that the ethereal immortal palace is about to send you out. The heavenly profound holy lady said, "If you want to go and take it, I can send you anywhere within 5,000 kilometers of the ethereal immortal palace. As you wish. Now that I have recovered to my peak, it does not matter where I appear." Xiaoqin stood up and performed a cupped fist salute. "Thank you for taking care of me on this trip to the ethereal immortal palace. Before I leave, I would like to thank you again." "There's no need. We are just taking what we need." The heavenly profound holy lady shook her head and rejected Xiaoqin. "Let's go. I'll send you off." Chapter 1457. After the heavenly profound holy lady finished speaking, Xiaoqin felt an irresistible force toss his body out of the immortal palace. The world spun around. When Xiaoqin felt his feet touch the ground again, he discovered that he had already landed on an island. Xiaochen casually looked around and discovered that this nameless island was the island where the hemp-robed old man was before he entered the immortal palace. He did not know if the heavenly profound holy lady did this on purpose or if it was a coincidence. Whoosh! Just as Xiaochen was about to leave, a figure suddenly appeared beside him. It was the Western Sea Berserk Saber, Feng Xiao. Brother Shadowless, I did not expect to see you again after coming out. Feng Xiao's complexion was very good. There was a reserved sharpness on his face. He must have gained a lot in the Mirage Immortal Palace. Xiaochen nodded firmly in response to the other party's greeting. Then, he casually chatted with Feng Xiao for a while. Indeed, it was as Xiaochen had expected. In the Mirage Immortal Palace, Feng Xiao had obtained a Dao comprehension painting left by an ancient bladesman. After comprehending it a little, he had gained a lot. Now, he was preparing to enter closed-door cultivation and absorb all the Dao in it. Xiaochen smiled and congratulated Feng Xiao, offering his blessings. Hee. My gains are nothing. A huge explosion happened in the 9th floor of the Immortal Palace. I heard that a supreme treasure was born. Unfortunately, I missed out on the excitement. Feng Xiao was in a good mood, so he could not stop talking. Missing out might not be a bad thing. There are many fortuitous encounters that one has to evaluate one's strength first. Xiaochen recalled his experience in the Immortal Palace's 9th floor, feeling deeply moved. Naturally, Feng Xiao did not understand the deeper meaning in Xiaochen's words. He nodded and said, Brother Shadowless is right. I have to enter closed-door cultivation quickly, so I won't chat any longer. We will meet again in the future if fate allows it. See you again. Xiaochen performed a cupped fist salute to send Feng Xiao off. Soon, that middle-aged couple was sent out as well. After casually saying goodbye to Xiaochen, they left in a hurry. They looked like they were worried that Xiaochen would attack them and snatch away their treasures. Xiaochen found this funny, but he did not say anything. It looked like the heavenly profound holy lady had indeed done this on purpose, sending them back to the same place. The hemp-robed old man was already dead. He definitely would not be sent back. Furthermore, the Geomaster Jiang Tian had not arrived yet. Although Xiaochen believed that the other party would be fine, deep in his heart, he was still a little uncertain. Did something really happen to the old man? Just as Xiaochen was muttering to himself, another beam of light appeared beside Xiaochen. Jiang Tian, who exuded a sinister aura, appeared beside Xiaochen. Ha, don't worry. Even if all of you die, this old man will not die. Although Jiang Tian's body was filled with yin qi, he was full of vigor and spirit. He did not look like he was trapped in the ghost mountain at all. What a pity. It would be great if I could stay here. He was in such a good mood that he almost forgot everything. He even forgot about the immortal cultivators. After a long time, Xiaochen realized that he had lost his composure. He smiled embarrassedly and said, Sorry, I was too engrossed in researching the techniques of the ancient geomasters in the Ghost Mountain. How is it on your side? Did the Penglai Sea's people obtain the Ghost Immortal cultivation method? Xiaochen felt that there was nothing to hide from Jiang Tian, so he honestly told the other party about the ethereal immortal palace. After hearing that, Jiang Tian felt emotional for a long time, sighing endlessly. Unexpectedly, the immortal cultivation method of the Ghost Immortal Tao is so difficult. The heavenly profound holy daughter is really pitiful, a heartless person. Xiaochen said indifferently, I feel that it's still alright. At the very least, she really helped me obtain the cycle arts, unlike some people. Jiang Tian smiled embarrassedly and said, Aren't I trapped in the Ghost Mountain? If not, helping you obtain the cycle arts would be easy. I can tell that after you came out, you seem to be quite at ease. You even have some inner energy. Xiaochen did not give up. No matter what, he was the one who dealt with the Penglai Sea's people. He had to knock this old fogey down. Jiang Tian knew that he was in the wrong. He said, Very well, I owe you a favor. How do you want me to repay you? Xiao Chen smiled in satisfaction and said, "You are indeed an old senior. You are really straightforward. In that case, I'll be direct. I want you to help me investigate the treasure master's identity and the matter of the ghost Ho. How is it connected to him?" The moment Xiao Chen said that, Jiang Tian's expression immediately sank. "Little brat, are you trying to push me into a pit of fire? The treasure master is low-key and mysterious. Even primes do not dare to make a move against him. You want me to investigate him? This is not justifiable, right?" Jiang Tian pushed the matter away, clearly unwilling to accept. A gentleman never goes back on his word. "Ha! I can't be bothered with that. This is my voice transmission talisman. Notify me if there is any news." However, Xiao Chen did not care. After tossing out a voice transmission talisman, he laughed heartily and left the nameless island. He left Jiang Tian alone, holding the voice transmission talisman in a daze. After a while, he said with a grave expression, "Indeed, I should not lie to myself about the treasure master's matter. Never mind, I'll use this opportunity to probe him with my other old friends." The treasure master had long suspected that Xiao Chen had something to do with the deep abyss demonic world. However, the treasure master was too strong and kept a low profile. Furthermore, he did not oppose the various holy lands. Many people turned a blind eye to his existence. This was especially so after Emperor Forsaken made a move and failed to take down the treasure master. This made everyone feel even more reverence for the treasure master's strength. However, if this continued, watching the treasure master slowly grow stronger, that would be too much of a lie. After leaving the island, Xiao Chen searched for a suitable place for closed-door cultivation on the boundless sea. Compared to Feng Xiao, Xiao Chen needed to enter closed-door cultivation even more. Furthermore, he already made up his mind to not come out of closed-door cultivation until he comprehended the state of cycle. Xiao Chen always wore a mask. No matter where he went, he gave Xiao Chen a feeling of hiding. If this continued for a long time, the heart tribulation would be even harder to resolve. He might never be able to overcome it. Thinking this, Xiao Chen found a pretty good place for closed-door cultivation, a lone island. Within a radius of 10,000 kilometers, there was only a boundless ocean. It was neither a trade route nor a blessed land. No one would purposely pass by this place even after 10 years or 100 years. Following the principle of caution, after Xiao Chen landed on the lone island, he laid a defensive formation. Then, he tossed out the formation plate and tapped the air with his right hand. Then, Xiao Chen laid a simple defensive formation. After setting up the formation, Xiao Chen sat down cross-legged and cleared his thoughts, entering a state of forgetting himself and the outside world. After Xiao Chen entered this state, he shouted, and 7 beams of light of different colors came out of his body. Each light represented a different intent: slaughter, destruction, annihilation, pain, grief, despair, and death. Massacre produced destruction. When the destruction expanded, it was annihilation, bringing pain and grief. When grief expanded infinitely, it was despair, and finally, death. Death represented the extinction of all things. However, after extinction came new life, which happened to be a cycle. Everything in the world could not escape the cycle of reincarnation. From the small ants, birds, and beasts, to the large worlds, even epochs. The immortal epoch was like this. Many immortals fell, the sky collapsed, and all things died. However, after death, a new epoch was born. The Kunlun realm was already so prosperous. The great world outside would definitely be even more prosperous. The cycle Tao had never stopped. Xiao Chen flipped to the first page of the cycle arts. There were 8 ancient words on it: as long as the cycle continues, life never ends. Grasping the cycle, one's flame of life would be eternal and inextinguishable, burning fiercely, living as long as the heavens. This was the highest level of expectation the creator of the reincarnation arts had for the reincarnation Tao. As for whether it had such an effect or not, no one knew. The cycle arts in Xiao Chen's hand was only an incomplete copy. The later contents were clearly missing. It was only enough for Xiao Chen to comprehend the state of cycle. Whether there was more was a mystery. Xiao Chen read through the cycle arts again. Then, he closed his eyes and started to follow the circulation path described in the cycle arts. Xiao Chen started to cultivate according to the prescribed order. As his primordial energy flowed through his body, the 7 flames around him spun continuously. A 7-colored light soared into the sky, looking like a rainbow, illuminating the entire horizon.